in just 2 hours. All the details and more at around 3:30.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Well, I've certainly heard of gone in 60 seconds. How about this gone in 120 minutes? Orlando Pirates, can I just hear there's something really brilliant happening with regard to local football and the massive crowds going to watch big matches. It is a real credit to whoever's driving the process, and big success teams do just that as well. Anyway, my name is Ashraf Garda. This is the National Pulse. That pulse rate is moving today because we have the Madlanga Commission on the one hand, we've got the Ad-Hoc on the other, this double feature or the double header as I can call it. And as you know, the Ad-Hoc Committee testifier today is the forensic investigator Paul O'Sullivan. So he's been testifying. There's been linked to all of that is allegations around criminality, infiltration of criminals and corruption within the SAPS and the criminal justice system. All that stemming from comments made by Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. So I'll tell you what, I'm going to drop your WhatsApp number, save it, and drop us a message anytime you're up for it. We'll bank it and play it when we can. It's 0614 104 107. I'll leave that for now because live we can't take the calls. And I say that because we don't really want to miss a moment. Let's get to the Ad Hoc Committee, and the voice you're going to hear is Advocate Norman Arendse on the one hand, and then the person many people have been waiting for, Paul O'Sullivan.
You are listening to the Ad Hoc Committee live on SAFM.
To join the South African Police Reserve, I took the view that if a country is good enough to live in, it's good enough to serve. In 1990, I joined SAPS as a reserve at the halfway house, now Midrand, where I completed training as a detective. As a reservist, I was required to donate approximately 8 hours per week of my time at no cost to the SAPS. Now, this is some 8 years later, after you wrote a letter to a member of parliament at the time, who in turn wrote to the Director General of Internal Affairs, pleading for this young person, this young man, to be given immigrant status. Because it'll break his heart if he must go back to England. He wants to stay here and learn Afrikaans. He wants to integrate with a Christian white community.
I never said I wanted to integrate with the Christian white community.
That's what your letter says, Mr.
No, my letter
I'm paraphrasing, but that's what it
my
is.
letter doesn't say that. I'm
Well,
sorry.
and then I'll be disciplined if I'm misrepresenting what you're saying.
It's a misunderstanding of what I'm saying. I never stated that I wanted to integrate into a Christian white community.
Well, it's clearly to be inferred from what you're saying, from the language that you use. And I don't want to waste further time
Chairman,
by reading back.
At the time I emigrated to the country, I'd completely forgotten about this letter of 8 years or 9 years earlier. It was gone from my mind. In fact, I can't remember the year, but it was either 87 or 88 when my dear Frank Martin, God rest his soul, passed away. And it was the furthest thing from my mind.
You see what will also strike one, and obviously the honorable committee members and members of the public will make up their own minds. But certainly what struck me is that your role as a police reservist and what you did is one of two things. It is highly commendable for the time and effort that you've given to assisting our regular police in doing their law enforcement job. It's either that Or on the other hand, this is most extraordinary for a police reservist to be trained as a detective, to achieve an award for the most arrests, to be trained, to do a train-the-trainer course, and train 1,000, what did you say, 1,500 other reservists to graduate and to get their certificate, including our Honorable President. So you have quite some notable students under your belt. You worked, and I'm looking at paragraph 16. You worked in the fraud unit at the then John Foster Square. You, as you know, was notorious. You lectured. You were elected chairman of the Community Policing Forum, paragraph 17. You formed Johannesburg Watch. So at all times, you were involved in policing. You were close to the action. And of course, by doing so, you're also close to other law enforcement people, intelligence officers involved in law enforcement in our country.
As a police reservist.
Yes. Because of the I'm saying those are the extraordinary things you did as a police reservist.
Yeah, Chairman.
I know a very, very good colleague of mine. He's actually one of our best advocates. He's a police reservist. You know, at night, in his own time, he goes with the police and they do neighborhood watch, they do patrols and all that. And his life is often in danger. He's been shot a few times or shot at a few times. That's the extent of what he does. And he's a highly intelligent person.
I was doing the same. I was going out on the streets with police officials, doing crime prevention work, attending to crime scenes, carrying out investigations because I was a detective, and making the necessary arrests. I worked with full-time detectives. At all times, I had no dealings whatsoever with the intelligence services. The crime intelligence, in my knowledge, was something that happened somewhere else. I had no involvement in it whatsoever. Later that changed. After the year 2000, or after the 2002 or 2003, I started to understand what crime intelligence was and where it fitted into the big picture. But up until then, I had no idea about it.
Now, it's only because I am old enough to remember this. But do you know, do you recall that the same Mr. Powell that you referred to was in fact a security policeman?
I don't know who Powell is. That name I don't remember. I have no knowledge of who that person is.
It was referenced in the letter.
Yeah, but I have no knowledge of who that person is.
And do you know that he was involved in at the time in KwaZulu-Natal? I don't want to unfairly, unnecessarily, or in a defamatory way attribute it to Nkatha, but at the time he was connected with Nkatha in KZN. Were you not aware of that?
None whatsoever. In fact, until I saw this, because I never kept a copy of any letter back 42 years ago until I saw this last week. If you'd have said to me, who's Jim Powell, I have no idea. No idea whatsoever.
So before we move on or forward, Mr. O'Sullivan, is it your evidence today that you've at no stage ever been involved with the security police, either the one before 1994, before 1992, when things started to change in this country, or afterwards?
As God is my witness, I was never involved with the security police in South Africa. And I'm stating that again under oath, never once in my life was I involved. And if anybody wants to make inquiries at Boyson's police station, and by the way, I have a lot more press cuttings than what you've seen there. There's another document there. I can't remember the page, but it's included. And if you have a look at it, Chairman, either just before or just after that picture of handing Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa the award. I'm just looking for it now. I'll give you the page number. By the way,
Well, we know, and I'm sure that the honourable members would have read your
Chairman,
affidavit.
important evidence. If one looks at page 55.
Of your affidavit.
No.
Of the annexes.
A55. Okay.
That's after the.
It's after the page
after
that
the
shows.
picture with the.
Yes.
The Honourable President.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. That's an article that appeared in the Citizen newspaper in 1977. It says millions in forged post orders claim. And it refers to forged 100 Rand postal orders, which were circulating in Johannesburg. And we got approached at the fraud unit. We got approached. And by the way, that would have then no longer been John Vorster Square, it would have been Johannesburg Central Police Station. We got approached with a view to trying to find out where these forged postal orders were coming from. And I spent my time and energy, and we tracked down who was printing and issuing these forged postal orders. And this details the court case in respect of that. And if you go back to the page before the letter that we dealt with which was 53, if we go to page 52, that's an article dated July 27, 1995, Chairman. It's the Southern Courier, which is a newspaper that deals with the southern suburbs of Johannesburg. And the headline is The Highs and Lows of Drugs. And if you have a look there, you can see the whole story is about people that are buying drugs on the street. And if you look at the bottom of the story, it says the technical aspects of this article were prepared for the Southern Courier by Detective Sergeant Paul O'Sullivan of the SAPS. Seen in the picture is Detective Sergeant O'Sullivan together with female constable Vermaak, making an arrest of 2 suspects with dagga and cocaine. That's far removed from being involved with intelligence services.
Before I ask Honourable Chair for my colleague Advocate Mkhize just to take over for a short while, I want to please be excused. I just want to say that it's also the perfect front to have these awards, meet all these important people, current president, former president, drop their names, and to continue some other undercover covert work. So on the face of it, yes, I've said to you it's impressive, and one can get a lot of credit for that kind of work. But it doesn't dispel or put pay to any theory that you have been or are involved also with other intelligence activities.
Is that a question? The reality of the situation is, I've stated a few minutes ago, and I'm stating again, while I was a police reservist, I was never involved in any way, shape, or form with any intelligence activity of any nature whatsoever. And since living in this country, I have not been involved in any way, shape, or form with any intelligence activity whatsoever. And that is it in a nutshell.
Honorable James.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just a bit concerned because it would appear that the witness has done quite a lot under the previous dispensation. We know that reservists are only allowed to operate in the visible policing environment. Mr. Paul O'Sullivan, you did fraud, you worked in the fraud unit, you made the most arrests, you were on active crime scenes. Do you have anyone that can vouch for this? Like a commander that you must have worked under because you were doing duties of a SAPS member?
Chairman, the regulations changed. In those days, a reservist could work with a unit, whichever unit he went to work with. And I was asked to work with the detective branch at Boyson's police station, which I did. And after an incident that took place in 1996, where I was shot, I was no longer able to carry out possible physical work relating to if you had to arrest somebody that became violent or something like that. So I then changed. I was said, you know, you're very good at what you're doing. You can go and work in the fraud unit. And that's what I did. And as for going back 30 years to find somebody that may be able to come and tell you, I can look, but it might not be that I can find somebody today or tomorrow that can come and say, by the way, he did this and that and what. But I can try.
So your title was detective sergeant.
I was a detective sergeant, Chairman, and that article that I just referred you to refers to me as a detective inspector, but that was what do you call it? A misunderstanding by a journalist. I was a detective sergeant. That's it, short and sweet.
Were you a reservist detective sergeant?
Correct. Now, the regulations in the police today for the reservists are different than where they were in the 90s. Now, the reservists, from what I understand, are in uniform. I worked, by the way, when I finished working as a detective sergeant at Johannesburg Central Police Station, I then relocated to the border police.
Chair, can I just wrap up?
OR Tambo Airport. And I was working in the border police for 2 years.
Honorable James, may you...
So just to wrap up, just so that I can be clear on this. So you are a forensic investigator, meaning that you dig deeper, you get information, and you are not able to tell this committee and give us evidence in terms of the time you worked as a SAPS detective. Am I correct? You are not able to give us anything that can justify everything that you have told this committee here today.
No, Chairman, that's not.
You're not. Did you have a force number?
Yes.
So you can't go back onto the system and track your force number and give us some form of evidence that this is what you've done, because even we can go and query that.
Chairman, I don't have access to the system. My force number.
No, we'll get it. That's fine.
Sorry,
Thanks.
I'm being asked a question and then I'm being given the answer. On page 53, A53, Chairman, there's a letter there dated 26th of June, 1997. And it says, Detective Sergeant Paul Robert O'Sullivan, force number 0245296-1. There's my force number.
Thank you.
You know, anybody can go on the system through the necessary channels and find out. I was a police reservist until Jackie Celebi cancelled my work as a police reservist.
We will come to the Jegis levy matter. May his soul rest in peace. Honorable Matthias.
Also on a point of clarity, when Mr. O'Sullivan joined this police reservist, were you a South African citizen then?
Chairman, I wasn't a South African
Okay,
citizen.
that's fine.
I was a permanent resident. But in those days, the regulations required that you be either a citizen or a permanent resident.
You were a citizen at that time.
No,
No,
it
Chairman,
wasn't.
I was a permanent resident.
Mm.
The regulations were changed in 2000 or 2000.
Mr. Sullivan, you
But have
answered
to-
that already. And then just on the second point, Chair, so we need to do back office work here and get the regulations of what was happening with the reservist unit during that, so we can just be workshopped on that, because I don't know which country would allow a non-South African to be this involved in our systems and having
let's
access
not
to
debate the
information.
matter. I
Thank you.
think
No, we're not, just so we make sure we
the
follow.
point has been met. Abazel.
Thank you, Mr. O'Sullivan. We are at paragraph 18 of your statement. And we are still paragraph 18, page 7. And we are just about to wrap up your time as a reservist. At paragraph 18, this is now 10 years since you'd started as a reservist and you were based at the airport, Johannesburg. At the time, it was Johannesburg International Airport.
That's correct, Chairman.
And you say in your statement that you were at that point part of a national team in the border police of Johannesburg. What was your specific role?
So the role of the border police, we worked together at the airport in 2 or 3 areas. One area was to prevent drug trafficking through the international port. Another area would be to make sure that people weren't coming through with forged documentation, for example, a fake passport. People that were involved in human trafficking. So actually, I was very successful in helping to stamp out human trafficking. We achieved quite a bit of work there. The other area we worked on was counterfeit goods. What's that noise?
You can continue.
Is it just in my ear? Or
Yes.
there would be importation of counterfeit goods. So we would go and do random checks together with the customs officers to identify counterfeit goods.
Could you name the specific successes that you were able to achieve in that period?
All right, we're going to break away from the Ad-Hoc Committee for the moment. That, of course, you've been hearing the voice of private investigator Paul O'Sullivan, certainly somebody who, what he says and doesn't say, captures the imagination as has been expected. Right, let's get the news headlines. It's just gone 3:30. Here's Ondela.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the news headlines, anti-corruption movement Transparency International says South Africa has made no progress in combating corruption in the past 3 years. Eastern Cape Police have announced an overall 3.8% decrease in serious crimes in 17 communities during the second quarter of the 2025-26 financial year, and the drought-hit Knysna municipality in the Western Cape says residents' water usage is still high and has urged them to use water-saving methods. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N3 northbound in Bedfordview, slow moving on the link to the N12 East at Kululi's interchange. An incident reported on the R21 southbound at Benoni Road and protest action in the Primrose area, so expect delays and diversions. In KZN, a stationary vehicle on the N3 northbound after Cliffdale interchange, the left lanes closed. The N2 northbound in Amanzimtoti has roadworks with traffic restrictions towards towards Adams Road and Umgeni Road westbound, slow moving through Springfield Park. In Cape Town, the mining indaba is underway at the CTICC Centre, so you are to expect traffic restrictions as well as delays on local routes. The M3 southbound slow moving towards Rhodes Drive and Military Road eastbound in Steenberg, slow moving towards the M5 Prince George Drive. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Right, Zai in for Chimene yesterday. I was going to say the Bafana team, no, the Proteas beating Canada, but they're looking ahead to Afghanistan tomorrow.
Absolutely, Ashraf. What a moment. What a start for the Proteas team, beating Canada yesterday, and convincingly so. So I think it's going to be amazing. It's going to be Afghanistan, different continent, but a very different spin attack at the same time. So we're going to preview that match. It's coming up tomorrow morning, 7:30 a.m. And after that convincing start, veteran batter David Miller says the real test begins now. That's Afghanistan tomorrow and then New Zealand next up on the schedule. Miller believes familiarity with the opposition will be key as South Africa looks to build momentum.
Yeah, so the next two games are really, really big. We're going to just take one game at a time, and which is Afghanistan. I think it's 11 o'clock start, which is a bit different. But yeah, the guys are really focused and ready, prepped really well. As you said, feel like we've got kind of home conditions. We've been here for a couple of days, and we are here for another week. So really, just to look after that and make sure that we can actually be nice and strategic and tactical about it. But the guys are all playing really, really good cricket. So I think it's going to be great games.
More cricket tonight. The Proteas women begin their build-up to the T20 World Cup, hosting Pakistan in their opening match of their 3-game T20 International Series. The match gets underway 6 p.m. under lights at JB Marks Oval in Potchefstroom. Captain Laura Warford saying the side is ready to play brave cricket in a World Cup year with a strong mix of youth and experience as they target a series win at home. Soccer news. Magesi FC are in advanced talks with Alan Freese to take over as coach for the remainder of the season following the suspension and dismissal of John Maduka. Maduka, who oversaw 15 league matches with just 2 wins, was formally axed after being sidelined 2 weeks ago. His departure leaves the Limpopo side bottom of the Betway Premiership table and desperate to turn around to avoid relegation. Tennis action. Sebastian Korda avenged his Australian Open defeat to fellow American Michael Zhang with straight sets in the opening round of the Dallas Open. Korda sealed a 6-3, 6-4 victory in just 67 minutes. Meanwhile, the American 8-seed Francis Tiafoe, he battled back from a set down to defeat France's Terence Atmain in the opening round of Dallas as well. And finally, motorsport. Adrian Newey has admitted that Aston Martin's late start on their 2026 Formula One Challenger is bound to affect results in the early stages of the season. The team offered a first glimpse of the AMR 26 at the Barcelona's shakedown in black camouflage before unveiling the official racing green livery in Saudi Arabia. Excitement remains high as this marks the first car designed under Newey's leadership, with Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll set to drive it this year. And that's your sport on the National Pulse. We'll drive it back top of the hour with more. I'm Zai Khan.
Perfect. Thanks for that, Zai. Yeah, all wins, important games, Canada, Afghanistan, leading on to bigger things. And then when they get into that, into the next stage, really for me is when it truly matters.
Alcohol drowns our hope and fuels our pain. Our streets are flooded. Our families are breaking. Women and children are not safe. Alcohol kills 100 people in South Africa every day. For more information, visit www.truecostofalcohol.africa. Increase excise tax on alcohol.
The villains are charging toward the summit with victory firmly in their sights.
There, a minute arriving, Ollie Watkins, and he's in there. He's 2-0 to Aston Villa, and it's Ollie
Watkins with a much-needed goal. Yet, the Seagulls are counting on the power of 3 points to run away from the danger zone.
Ayari into Costello, brilliantly left, Gross! A true Albion legend back on the score sheet in blue and white.
This is the Premier League. Catch Aston Villa versus Brighton and Hove Albion this Wednesday, 11 February at 9 p.m. Live on SABC Plus and SABC 3. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Wherever you are in the world, SAFM 104 to 107 is accessible. We're also streaming live on Facebook, X, and YouTube at SAFM Radio. We acknowledge and appreciate everyone tuning in and watching our streams. Stay with SAFM 104 to 107 as we bring you commission live, breaking stories, and thought-provoking lectures. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Right, listen, based upon what you've been hearing, specifically as we pay attention to the Ad-Hoc Committee with Paul O'Sullivan testifying, is you can drop us a WhatsApp, add your thoughts, add your comments, whatever it is you wish to get off your chest. Is he making sense to you or not? 0614 104 107. Just another quick one regarding the T20 Cricket World Cup in India. South Africa playing, clearly one of the bigger teams. Why is there an absence of marketing vibe in our own country? I just see that. You see it differently, maybe. Right, let's, however, get back to the Ad-Hoc Committee, and you'll hear the voice of Paul O'Sullivan.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Now I can look.
Yeah, I was worried about that because for the earlier part of the morning, you could imagine when honorable members ask you questions and
now we have a problem, Chair. I have to have a firm back behind me, and this thing's moving. I can't lean. I have to be able to lean back without the chair moving.
The chair does not have to move.
Hang on. Oops. Yeah. Yeah, there. And there's somebody that understands these chairs is able to fix it so that when I lean back, it doesn't go away like
Mr. Mpilo, let's assist. And
no, I don't want to go down. Put it back up again. That's it. Thank you. Now it's fixed.
Is it fine now?
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I can lean like this without it going over like that.
Can you turn it to my side? Let's see.
Thank you, Chairman.
Can you turn it to that side? Let's see. Okay. Thank you so much. Yeah, look at Honorable Malema and talk to him.
Good afternoon.
Were you done, Honorable Member?
I asked a question and then he gave an answer. That's when I said I didn't hear the answer.
Can we proceed?
I didn't get the answer.
Okay.
The answer was that what you said, would that be correct? And my answer, Chairman, was that would not be correct.
Thank you. And then the handwritten letter, do you recognize your handwriting there?
Chairman, I feel that is my handwriting. But as I said, 42 years ago, I'd completely forgotten about it until somebody showed it to me the other day. So, yeah, I believe it is my handwriting.
Let's put it differently. Is that your handwriting on that letter?
I believe it is, Chairman.
Chair, what is the answer now?
There is no answer.
Is that your handwriting on that letter?
I believe that's my handwriting on that letter.
No, I'm not asking about belief. I'm asking about whether that letter is authentic and it's your handwriting that you see on there. You may not remember the content, but surely all of us remember our handwriting.
So I would probably say that is my handwriting.
Thank you. And then, lastly, how do you say to us you don't remember who was your commander? It's probably 30 years ago and all of that. Because obvious, every police station in a particular year has got a station commander, has got this, has got that. And those people that we worked with for such a long time, and then giving people certificates that are not recognized by any institution, and giving them awards which you bought from a shop or Discom or something like that. You should remember those people. There's no way you can work with people and achieve these things that you said you have achieved, and you don't remember under whose command. As a person who's trained in military intelligence, a person who has been a reservist without being a citizen in South Africa, and having served for such a long time, there is no way you cannot remember who was a commander of these operations, because the discipline of what you are doing actually requires that you know your commanders.
Thank you, Chairman. I did not say I don't know who was my commander. The station commander in those days was Director Vermaak, and the detective branch commander was a Colonel Badenhorst. So, but I've never said, nobody said to me, who's your commander? And I've never said, I don't remember who my commander was.
No, the question was, these things that you are telling us, is there a person who was commanding you who we can make contact with, who can confirm that indeed these achievements were made? And you said, no, I can't remember, it's 30 years ago or plus. I think it was asked by Honorable James.
Sorry, Chairman, the reality is that I didn't say I can't remember who my commander was. I said I would have to look into it and find out. And if you go back on the record and play it again, you will hear that I said I would have to go and find out who. I don't even know if Director Vermaak is still alive. Our Colonel Badenhorst, I cannot say whether or not he's still around, because with 30 years ago, and with all due respect, I was a lot younger then, and they were a lot older than me. So if I can find somebody, but in the meantime, what I have done to try and evidence what I've said in my affidavit is I've attached some, just some, by the way. There's a lot more newspaper cuttings about the work that we did. And not one of those newspaper cuttings, Chairman, mentioned anything about intelligence services or anything like that. It was all about the successful work that we did and what we achieved in proper policing. Thank you, Chairman.
You see, the problem is going to be when you ask yourself questions and answer your own questions. No one asked you if those people were still alive or not. Whether you are dead or alive, if you have been my commander, I will still mention you as being my commander, and the files will dictate that, of course, the person is still alive or not alive. We didn't ask if your commanders are still alive or not. We asked, who can we reference this thing with, that these things that you are telling us, to confirm, maybe your commander or any of the people that might have supervised some of your activities. And I'm happy that without referencing anything, contrary to what you said, I have to reference and check, because some of these people, you were able to give us some names and we can work from there.
And
Thanks,
Chairman, it's clear if you look at the letters, which is page A53, it's addressed to the Station Commissioner at Boyson's SAPS, It says, for the attention of Director Vermaak. And it's signed by J. Schultz, Senior Superintendent, Head of Training. Now, I can go away and find out if there's somebody that still has knowledge of the work that we did back then that can come and say, yes, he did this, or no, he didn't do that, he did this, and what. But it wasn't put to me until now that I should be able to find such a person.
Whip.
No, thanks, Chair. I was very interested to the question that was raised earlier on by Honorable Malema, and I wanted to make a follow-up on it, but in this particular way, Mr. O'Sullivan. My own understanding, and I may be wrong, is that most of us largely have the value system that defines who we are imparted on us at a very young age. And I mean really in the 10, 15 years, at 20 years from where you were in the 80s, from what I'm hearing. You are already formed as a citizen. That's why you can even want to travel to another country. You are well formed, you understand the environment within which you live in. Now, in the light of the question that Mr. Malema was raising about what appears to have been a level of ignorance or naivety on your part about the country that you were beginning to have a very keen interest to go and work, which is South Africa. How do we reconcile that part? How do we reconcile that with what is said in your statement? Your statement is littered with examples of how you have, over a period of time, 20, 30 years, made interventions to fight against injustice. How do we reconcile that? Because I think you becoming a proponent or a fighter for justice could not have been something that just occurred after 1994. In the early 80s, the way in which injustices was perpetrated in the country, which is what Mr. Malema was raising, should have really said something to you as you were about to decide that I'm traveling to South Africa, in a country where the overwhelming majority of the people, especially from the black community, were major victims of a white perpetrated system of injustice. How do we reconcile that? If somebody listens to you today and the 20-year-old you then, who, as I said, by that time at 20 years, should have been already imbued with a particular value system about what is right and wrong and what to stand for. That's what I wanted to hear your comment on in relation to that question and that matter.
Chairman, it's quite, I would say, a good question. And in some regards, I took a decision probably in my early 30s that actually what I wanted to do was to improve the life of South Africans. And I'm not talking about the white Afrikaners and the white people, but I wanted to improve the lives of black people in South Africa, because I felt that that was the type of contribution I wanted to make. And I absolutely have some evidence of that here, which we will come to. And I'm satisfied that, well, I'm maybe not satisfied, but I accept that in my 20s, my views were perhaps naive. But as life went on, I realized, no, we can improve the lives of people in South Africa, and I can demonstrate that that's exactly what I've done. And I don't want to take away from the evidence leaders, but we will come to that at some point in time. But you know, every person in their life realizes that no matter what you do in life, sometimes your life isn't perfect. Sometimes what you do, you think, maybe I shouldn't have done that. Or maybe I shouldn't have felt that way. Maybe I shouldn't have done that. Or maybe I shouldn't have done that. But you can't change history, but you can change the future. And what I do with my life certainly over the last 36 years, is I've tried to make South Africa a better country for all its people, especially the previously disadvantaged people. And in that regard, I can demonstrate that I spend a lot of my time and energy and my own personal money in doing that.
Honorable Chief Wibayo.
No, Chair, I wanted to say that the answer has not been adequate, but I'm prepared to live with what has been provided now. And during my tenure, I can expand on this issue so that I don't completely divert the proceedings as led by the evidence leaders. Thanks.
I'm sorry to do this to you, Chair, but also to put it on record that in his affidavit, paragraph 6, he says, I came from the UK to live in South Africa in 1989, because he was trying to create a different impression that he came here in 1995. He came to live here in 1989 and he had business interest here way before 1989. It is in his own affidavit.
Yeah, we will come to that. Just note it down, Mr. O'Sullivan, because...
Yes, Chairman, I didn't say...
No, don't respond.
Okay.
I'm just saying note it down because we now have three dates. We have 1982, the year of the application of your handwritten letter and the letter of Mr. Watterson. There is 1989, there is 1995. Honorable Skosana.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to emphasize that as well. Hence, when we started, when the evidence leader was asking Mr. O'Sullivan that we agreed that we are disregarding that 1990 issue, hence the letter was read for us here that in 1982, he applied for a work permit and the work permit was rejected. And I just wanted to remind him quickly that you remember that, you know, your friend who was an MP, Mr. Watson, what you said just now is contrary to what when he made an application trying to help you to get a work permit in this country, for you to, in fact, a permanent resident, for you to settle permanent in South Africa, that he said that you are the most educated, intelligent, and a very conservative political attitude which you can add to white community in this country. Now, the letter was written to Director General van der Merwe. Do you remember that?
Chairman, I think I've made it clear earlier during intense questioning by the evidence leader that I saw this letter for the very first time the other day.
Yes, but do you agree that the letter is legit?
The letter is what?
Is legit.
Legitimate.
It's legitimate.
It's an authentic document.
I'm not disputing it, but I cannot say anything about it because I never saw it before in my life.
Yeah, so in other words, the context of that letter, do you have any problem with it? That you were an ex-serviceman club, that's where you met in the UK with Ms. Frank Martin.
When I saw the letter, I never recalled this fellow Watterson, never. When I saw the letter, I immediately raised it with Advocate Kisa, and I said, oh, somebody showed me this, but I didn't have a copy of it to show her. And I said, oh, this is probably going to come up.
No, thank you, Chair. When our time comes, we will really transverse on these matters because really they are very important. You know, we can't be misled. And I mean, Mr. O'Sullivan knows exactly what we are talking about here. Since 1982, not 1997 or 1996 or 1990. Thank you.
Honorable Skosana, Mr. Paul O'Sullivan, he asked you whether you are happy with the motivation that is made in that letter for you to get permanent residence. There is a motivation there that you are educated, you are intelligent, you are a conservative, and you are an ex-service officer, you can be very useful to the wide community of this country.
Yeah.
Are you happy with that motivation?
No, Chairman.
Okay. Honorable Ngola.
No, Chair, I was actually coming to the very same point that I find the evidence by the witness very much gravely contradictory. You would have made an example of the 1982 thingy, and amidst that, he completely lost his memory when asked and pressed on the issue of the citizenship. When pressed by the evidence leader, I then moved on and spoke about 1987 November. In paragraph 6 is 1989. Then when asked by Advocate Mkhize, it's now 1994 and 1995. So I think it suffices that we follow up that process we said we'll undergo, because if we take what has been accused before us, it's gravely contradictory, and it actually puts a particular image about the credibility of the witness in front of us. But I think we'll endure and try to get to the bottom of it. Thank you very much.
Chairman, I can respond immediately to that. I never said in my affidavit that I became a citizen in 1989. I applied for permanent residence. I only got my citizenship in 1995. And I probably didn't bother putting that in the affidavit, or I forgot to put it in the affidavit, but I can assure you I was a permanent resident. I never became a citizen in 1989. I never had a South African passport until 1995.
Chair, maybe let's take Mr. O'Sullivan on what he has written in his affidavit. The English here is very simple. In 1989, due to my investment in property, I successfully applied for permanent residence as a person of independent means. Successfully applied. That's what the English in your affidavit is saying.
For permanent residence. Not for citizenship. For permanent residence. There's a big difference between the two. When you get your ID book, Chairman, your last 3 digits in the ID book, if you're permanent resident, it's my ID number then ended in 185. It now ends in 085 because I'm a citizen.
Let's proceed. Kabazel.
Thank you, Chair.
You have shown us the patience of a mother.
I think I've just broken this.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I'd just like to confirm, and also just for the purposes of the record, that Mr. O'Sullivan on Sunday evening did contact me to say that there may be a letter which he did not have in his possession.
Crossing to the Ad-Hoc Committee, but rest assured, we know, you know, I know, huge attention on the Paul O'Sullivan testimony. We'll be right back as soon as we can. But for now, let's get the news at 4 with Ondela Mbana.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the top stories, report indicates no progress in combating corruption in South Africa, and Indonesia offers 8,000 troops for peacekeeping force in Gaza. For SAFM News, I am Ondela Mbana, and a very good afternoon. Anti-corruption movement Transparency International says South Africa has made no progress in combating corruption in the past 3 years. The movement's 2025 Corruption Perception Index released today found worsening corruption and a decline in leadership globally, with South Africa stagnating with a score of 41. This is the same as last year, with the score still below the global average of 42. The index measures levels of public sector corruption in 182 countries and territories on a scale of 0, indicating highly corrupt, to 100, which is very clean. Suspended Ekurhuleni head of legal unit, Advocate Kemi Bihari, has testified at the Madlanga Commission that he did not recommend that another internal investigation be conducted against suspended EMPD Deputy Police Chief Julius Mkwanazi. He told the Commission that statements from the former CT manager Dr. Imogen Mashazi suggesting that are untruthful. Bihari, who was responding to questions from Commissioner Sandile Kumalo, concluded his testimony today.
The engagement with the city manager was that we are addressing certain vague issues in the report as per the letters that we went out. There was, and when she said he has advised chief or whatever, I didn't advise anybody for another internal investigation. I just spoke to the city manager about what were the concerns raised as per our engagements internally. And those are the only issues. I never gave city manager any advice to the extent that we've said there must be another internal investigation.
So she was not truthful in her evidence?
If that is the case, she would have been mistaken or not truthful, but not according to what I gave her.
Eastern Cape Police have announced an overall 3.8% decrease in serious crimes in 17 communities during the second quarter of the 2025-26 financial year. The Buffalo City, Metro and Nelson Mandela Bay have contributed greatly to the decreased statistics with 19.4% and 20.6% respectively. However, the OR Tambo district saw an increase of 1.8% in recorded crimes. Announcing the stats in Zwelitsha Community Safety MEC Xolile Nqatha says more still needs to be done in fighting the scourge of rape and murder cases.
On the rape, OR Tambo has almost 5 stations in the top 30 in the country. That is deeply worrying, especially in the context when the president has declared GBV as a disaster. And we have agreed that it can be business as usual. We have got to demonstrate in action that we're dealing with a disaster. We have got to intensify our fight to deal with the cases of rape.
The drought-hit Knysna municipality in the Western Cape says residents' water usage is still high and has urged them to use water-saving methods. Knysna's main water source, the Akerkloof Dam, is still critical despite some rainfall last week. The dam level is around 23%. Knysna Mayor Thando Matika.
Our message to residents, they're still using water high, is just to save water, and our water demand is very high. We are still arguing residents and asking them that we must preserve water and we must use water sparingly. So that's our message, is that let's try bit by bit and save water. And we must report leakages that are there. We must also report people that are not adhering to the level for restrictions.
Indonesia has confirmed that it's offering up to 8,000 troops to take part in the planned multinational peacekeeping force in Gaza. Its establishment is a key part of the second phase of the Gaza ceasefire. The BBC's Jonathan Head has the details.
The timing of the Indonesian troop deployment and their exact role in Gaza have not yet been finalised, but it appears that President Prabowo Subianto has decided they will go. His decision to join President Trump's Board of Peace has been criticised by some Islamic groups in Indonesia, where there's been widespread public anger over the US role in Israel's bombardment of Gaza.
Recapping the top story, anti-corruption movement Transparency International says South Africa has made no progress in combating corruption in the past 3 years. I'm Mondela Mana for SFM News, headlines at 4:30.
It's a very good afternoon to you. It's the National Pulse Sport and it's cricket with the Proteas eyeing a Afghanistan test as the World Cup intensity ramps up, and that's tomorrow. They take on Afghanistan, and tonight we're bracing ourselves for the Proteas women in action. They'll be taking on Pakistan in Potchefstroom. All the details around 4:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound in central Johannesburg, slow moving towards Crown Interchange, and Main Road in Bryanston, slow moving at Sloane Street. In KZN, a stationary vehicle on the N2 southbound after Umhlanga Road and a stationary vehicle on the N3 northbound after Shongweni Interchange. In Cape Town, the N2 outbound is slow moving towards Bunga Avenue and the N1 outbound slow moving on Plattekloof Hill. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
The villains are charging toward the summit with victory firmly in their sights.
There a minute arriving, Ollie Watkins, and he's in there. He's 2-0 to Aston Villa, and he's Ollie Watkins with a much-needed goal.
Yet The Seagulls are counting on the power of 3 points to run away from the danger zone.
Ayari into Costello, brilliantly left Gross! A true Albion legend back on the score sheet in blue and white.
This is the Premier League. Catch Aston Villa versus Brighton and Hove Albion this Wednesday, 11 February at 9 p.m. Live on SABC Plus and SABC 3. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
With the ever-changing financial landscape, it can be difficult to make sense of all the moves at times. Join me, Jimmy Moyaha, on the SAFM Market Update with MoneyWeb, Mondays to Thursdays, 6 to 7 p.m, as we break down the key market trends, top financial stories, and smart investment insights, all in one place. It's everything you need to stay financially informed and ahead of the curve.
As we celebrate 90 years of existence, SAFM takes you back to the voices that shaped a nation.
Berea, the home of the 4 bespectacled Tissot brothers, all of whom work or have worked on the English service, particularly Audio Mix and Radio Today. Watch how the night proceeds towards dawn.
And
I need a lot of consoling when I started the early program. People couldn't believe that John O'Donnell and B. Reid were chosen for the early morning program, because if ever 2 announcers used to want to swap a morning shift for an afternoon shift, John and I would do it.
90 years of trusted voices. This is SAFM. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
I have no doubt you have an opinion on how Paul O'Sullivan's testimony is coming across, whatever it may be, and I'm sure you want to share it. So drop us a WhatsApp, 0614 104 107. We will play it when we get a window, let's put it that way. But for now, we accept there's a huge interest in his testimony, and we're going to devote the major part of the show, as we've already done, to his testimony. So my name is Ashraf Garda. This is the National Pulse. Let's get right back to the Ad-Hoc Committee, and we hear the voice of Paul O'Sullivan.
You are listening to the Ad-Hoc Committee, live on SAFM.
With the Minister of Transport that he would not appoint a white person into any senior position on the board of AXA.
Right. Now, my last one on that, clarity on this parallel. When you said to the evidence leader, when she asked you about the parallelism of that advertisement, I didn't hear you well. What is parallel there on that? There was another candidate, or what was it?
I don't remember using the word parallel, but there were other candidates and there were interviews.
So it was a formality. The job was created for you.
No, Chairman, the job wasn't created for me. They had a panel of people that did the interview.
To disclose that the minister and the chairman, Ramashood, approached you before that job was advertised.
My understanding is that they'd taken a decision to advertise the position, but they hadn't advertised it, and the advertisement was coming out either the next week or the week after. So,
no, my question is, did you disclose during the interview that the minister, Tula Oma, and Ramano Mashudu, that they've approached you, that they are going to create a group executive for aviation and security at AXA?
Yes, I did disclose it in the interview. In fact, the interview panel included the chairman.
The same person who asked you to that you advertise that?
That's correct.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Malim.
No, Chair, thanks. When the advert was taken out for this position, what were the requirements in terms of qualifications?
I can't remember, Chairman. We're going back over a quarter of a century. I didn't keep a copy of the advertisement.
Do you have a degree or equivalent yourself?
No, that wasn't a requirement.
Do you have a degree or an equivalent? You?
No.
So that post will not, Group Executive Aviation and Security will not have required a degree.
No, there was no degree required in the advertisement.
It was designed to suit you.
I don't agree with that. The advertisement came out the week after I had that meeting.
Who was in the panel? How many were they and who were they?
I think there were 4 or 5 directors of airports company. The chairman and 3 or 4 other directors.
Was there no one representing the minister at the panel?
Chairman, I can't remember. It's I think 26 years ago or 25 years ago. But there were people sat there. There were directors of the airports company, and there was the chairman of the airports company, and I think the group executive HR was there.
Mr. Paul O'Sullivan, everything good about you, you remember it. For sure, you even remember the flight number you came with here. But if something is not of your favor or interest, all of a sudden we're told, yes, it's 26 years ago, it's 30 years ago. But you have detailed every achievement you have made. You remember everything that suits you, that is good about you. There is a panel, you're being interviewed for such a senior position. Was there no one there representing a minister?
Chairman, when I went in for the interview, I didn't ask, where are you from, where are you from, where are you from, where are you from? There were 4 or 5 people there. I can remember the name of Mashuda Romano. There was another gentleman who was a white person. He was a director of the airports company representing Aeroporti di Roma, who was a shareholder. And to my knowledge, there was somebody there, but I don't remember who was representing the other shareholder, which was the government of South Africa. And then there was the HR director, and that's it. I can't, I mean.
Did you have any qualification or any practical experience that has to do with aviation?
I've been a pilot for 40 years, and I've been a pilot for 40 years.
For 40 years?
Yes.
So you are a qualified pilot?
For 40 years.
I'm asking, are you a qualified pilot?
I've been a qualified pilot for 40 years.
You went to school to be a pilot?
Yes. I own my own aircraft.
I live that. That I understand. But school, because those people of pilots go to school and then they have to do some hours. Have you done all of that?
I've done all of that.
And then you had security experience, because it's aviation and security.
I have that experience. I went on a course in the United States to learn specifically about aviation security, because I wanted to understand. There's an organization called ICAO, which is the International Civil Aviation Organization, and they have a training center where they train people and they qualify them as aviation security specialists.
So will you be able to give us a certificate of that aviation security that you went to America for,
if I can,
and your pilot certificate?
Well, I can show you my pilot's license right now.
No, not license, school, the school. Where you attended school, obvious, when you finish, they give you a qualification. Will you attach it? Will we get it tomorrow?
If I can, what do you mean if tomorrow? If I can find it.
2 things, please try to find them. One of aviation security institution that you attended to in America, and the qualification, not license, because there is a certificate that you get, which will tell us where did you go and do your training, and then how many hours did you serve before you qualified to become a pilot.
Chairman, I wouldn't have any. I didn't fly to Cape Town with all these documents, knowing that I would be asked these type of questions from 40 years ago. The reality of the situation is And there is my pilot's license. I have a pilot's license. I didn't buy it on the street corner. I did my training. I have my own aircraft. I fly my own aircraft on a regular basis. You know,
I wouldn't know if you bought it at your own street corner if you don't give me the qualification. The ticket doesn't say anything. When it comes to academic qualifications, that ticket you're showing me doesn't mean anything. I want certified documents that come from a recognizable institution that confirms that you went training to become a pilot and you passed the certain levels of the requirements, and the institution in America to check if that institution is recognizable institution and its qualification is recognizable. And we need both, even if it's not tomorrow, Chair. We need to, because here is a post, we're being told he can't remember what were the requirements. He doesn't have a degree or post-matric qualification. It says he went to aviation security to some institution and all of that. We need to see all of that, to see if indeed there was some element of qualification closer to this post that was specifically created for him.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. No, I just want to confirm one or two things. So, Mr. O'Sullivan, you said you were approached by Ramano and Mr. Dula Oma, correct?
Mm-hmm. No, I didn't say that. I said I was approached by Mr. Romano, who wanted a meeting.
Yes, Ramano and
who wanted a meeting with the minister, and
so
he
they
arranged
said
a meeting, and then I met them.
Bonani says they are not related.
No, I know he's not talking about the Ramano we have here. But what I want to check is, so they persuaded you to apply, correct? They said you must consider.
They invited me to apply.
To apply.
Yes.
And then were you vetted before you were
Pardon me?
considered for the job? Were you vetted?
I don't know what their internal mechanisms were, but I'm assuming they carried out the normally.
No, my question, I think, should start like this. The first job that you did was being a detective at the airport, which was a national key point, correct?
Correct.
The airport was the national key point. What was your responsibility?
I worked in the border police there.
As a police?
Yes.
Were you vetted?
No.
So you worked as a police at the airport, which was a national key point, without being vetted.
They may have vetted me, I don't know, but I was a reservist.
So you had no a clearance certificate?
To my knowledge, not.
Okay, no, thank you, Chair.
Honorable James, you will be the last, and we proceed.
Thank you, Chair. I'll save my questions for later, but I just need clarity. In 1997, when you got this paid job, was it as the group executive or was it at border control management?
I didn't hear what job?
The job when you started, you said earlier on in 1997, was your paid job at the airport. Where you were dealing with drug-related trafficking and working at border control. I'm trying to understand, was it a paid job via SAPS or was it this group executive job?
No, Chair. I was a police reservist.
You were police reservist.
I was a police reservist at the airport.
Working at border control.
Border police, not border control.
Border police.
Border control was carried out by the immigration department.
So you were police reservist responsible for drug trafficking?
No, Chairman. I wasn't a police reservist responsible for drug trafficking. I was a police reservist in the border police. And we were involved in a lot of activities, which included human trafficking, drug trafficking, prevention. It was crime prevention.
Okay, I'm going to leave it for later. And then also, just to make 100% certain, you have no other qualifications, nothing. You don't have any law qualifications, engineering, nothing.
No, completely unqualified.
Completely. Nothing in law, nothing in engineering.
That's correct.
I'll get back to this later. Matric, do you have a matric?
We don't have matric where I went to school. That's a South African qualification.
Anything equivalent to a matric?
Of course I have.
What is that?
We call it O-levels and A-levels, but I mean, we're talking about 40 years ago, or 50 years ago.
You were group executive. No qualifications.
Of course I had qualifications. With all respect, Chairman, you know, being an engineer doesn't fit in with group executive aviation security. I had the necessary training regarding, and by the way, I was also at some point an aviation security auditor. I was a person that carried out aviation security audits. So I had all that training and all those skills.
I'm going to leave it at that, Mr. O'Sullivan. You must remember what you told this committee now when I come back later. And this is why it was very important for you to have a CV as part of your statement. Then we wouldn't have been having this.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. O'Sullivan, just for purposes of my clarity, you've just testified that you have no degree.
That's correct.
Okay. Earlier, you testified that you have an electrical engineering degree.
No, I never said I had a degree. I had a high national certificate, which is just one step below the degree.
So you do have a post O-levels qualification?
Absolutely, yes.
And what is that qualification?
Engineering. Electronic engineering.
Electronic engineering.
Yes. It's a high national certificate.
Where did you obtain it?
Manchester.
Manchester Technikon.
Yes. Correct.
Okay. So, Manchester Technikon. It's called electrical engineering.
Electrical and electronic engineering.
Okay, and that is your post O and A level qualification.
Correct.
Okay. We were at paragraph 23 of your statement, and there it reads, I had carte blanche to make radical changes and to review all security contracts in place. My question that I had posed to you was, what was your mandate at AXA, and what did your initial assessment reveal regarding the security? Perhaps let me take it one step at a time. What was your mandate at AXA?
My mandate at AXA, Chairman, was to improve security, not just at Johannesburg Airport, but at all the airports.
And what did your initial assessment, once you joined, what did that reveal regarding security at all the airports in South Africa?
My initial assessment, Chair, revealed that the security wasn't up to the standard it should be, and that there was corruption within the service provider environment. For example, bribes were being paid to AXA employees to sign worksheets to say that people had performed certain jobs that hadn't been performed, and equipment tenders were going out in a corrupt fashion. I assessed all of this. I then went to speak to the chairman. I explained to the chairman that we had these problems. He said we need to fix it, and that was what we did. We went about to fix it.
Could you elaborate on what you mean by having carte blanche to make radical changes?
Okay, so for example, they had just completed a tender before I joined for the replacement of all the archway metal detectors and the pre-flight screening equipment of passengers. Where you put your bag on a conveyor belt, it passes through. At the other end, they can have a picture and see what's in your bag. And the replacement of all that equipment at 10 airports, I can't remember the exact figure now, but it was millions of rand. And when I joined, in the first month I was there, I was brought the tender documents and told we need to place this order now. and you have to sign this that we're going to buy all this equipment. So I said, okay, let me have a look at all that, and I asked some questions. And I had a problem because the lowest bidder wasn't the contractor that they planned to issue the contract to, and there was a difference of several million rand. So I then decided to look into that further, and I phoned the lowest bidder, and I asked him, you tendered for this equipment, but they've disqualified you from receiving the contract because your equipment doesn't do exactly what the specification says. And the tenderer told me, he said, no, our equipment can't do that because the specification has been written for the winning tender's bidded equipment. In other words, it would appear that the winning tender contractor had assisted AXA to write the specification because it would suit the equipment that he would have been supplying. And when I saw this, I went and had another look at the document, the specification. And then I started doing a comparison between all the tenders who submitted a tender. And I found out that, in fact, only one person could have won that tender, and that was the highest price tender. So I went back to Mashuda Romano and I said, we have a problem here. My suggestion would be that we retender, and instead of tendering exactly what the equipment should be, we should retender on the basis of what the equipment should be able to do. In other words, it should comply with these relevant international standards, and it should be guaranteed, and it shouldn't break down, and blah, blah, blah. And he agreed with that. So we retendered, and I think we saved some in the region of 5 or 6 million rand on that tender. And the same applied to the manpower contract. We had 10 airports, and for some reason, all of the security employees for the 10 airports were from one contractor. And when I analyzed the scope of the tender and the work that was being performed, I found discrepancies. And the discrepancies I found was I would go there, for example, out of hours, not during normal working hours. I would go there outside normal working hours. And we had the tender documents, so we knew how many security personnel we should expect to find at each security checkpoint in the airport. And when I went to validate how many people were there, every time I went...
Right now, we need to catch up with the news headlines. So let's do that right away.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the news headlines, Thabo Bester's urgent application to be moved back to a prison in Gauteng has been struck off the roll by the High Court in Pretoria. Anti-corruption movement Transparency International says South Africa has made no progress in combating corruption in the past 3 years, and the butternut peanut butter and chocolate peanut products are being recalled. The National Consumer Commission says the recall is as a result of higher than legally accepted levels of aflatoxin detected in the product. A full update follows at the top of the hour with Greg Hoos.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in the Gauteng, the N1 northbound in Midrand queuing towards Allendale Road, the M1 southbound in Parktown slow moving towards Houghton Drive, and Jan Smuts Avenue northbound in Craighall slow moving towards Conrad Drive. In KZN, there's a stationary vehicle on the N3 northbound after Hummersdale interchange. The N3 westbound is slow moving towards Cliffdale, and a stationary vehicle on the N2 southbound after Umhlanga Road. In Cape Town, the R300 northbound is slow moving on the link to the N1 outbound, the M5 southbound slow moving towards Racecourse Road, and Campground Road slow moving through Newlands. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Right, Zai, certainly huge attention on South Africa's journey, hopefully to T20 World Cup glory.
Absolutely, Ashraf. And we have big hopes, high hopes on the team that had a fantastic win against Canada yesterday. They're busy brushing themselves up, getting ready for another exciting edition at this T20 World Cup journey. We've got the Proteas batter David Miller saying one of the biggest differences in this World Cup campaign is the calmness inside the South African camp after a convincing opening win over Canada. Miller believes a settled mindset and clear roles will be key as the Proteas prepare for their test with Pakistan. That's tomorrow.
I'll put it down to the squad's played a lot together for a number of years, so it's just having faith and trust in each other. It's not really necessarily trying to do too much out of the box. It's just making sure that you do your job and get it done properly. So I think that it comes with time. We've played a lot together, and it kind of does feel calm. The guys are nice and focused, as I said. And we just take one game at a time and just make sure that build up from that 2024 final that we lost. Just take a lot of confidence from that. Nonetheless, it was a great game, and hopefully go one step further.
Let's go to more cricket. The Proteas women begin their T20 World Cup preparations tonight with the opening match of a 3-game series against Pakistan in Potchefstroom. Captain Laura Wolford says the side is well prepared and excited to play at the high-scoring JB Marks Oval. The match starts at 6 p.m. under lights. You can catch it live on SABC Sport. Now, soccer news. Tickets for this month's Soweto derby between Kaizer Chiefs and Orlando Pirates sold out in just 2 hours after going on sale. All categories were snapped up. The rapid sellout reflects renewed belief with both Chiefs and Pirates firmly in the Betway Premiership title race ahead of the February 28th clash, all happening at FNB Stadium. In the meantime, more soccer. There'll be no Valentine's romance at Loftus Versfeld this week as Rulani Mokoena returns to haunt his former club Mamelodi Sundowns, who face MC Alger. And this is a decisive CAF Champions League group stage with knockout qualification on the line. Sundowns trail Alger by a single point, and anything less than a win could end their continental campaign early. Golf, the 4-time major winner Ernie Els will headline the field at the NTT Data Men's and Women's Pro-Am. Brought to you by Standard Bank at Fan Court from the 12th to the 15th of February. The former world number one will join a stellar lineup in the men's event co-sanctioned by the Sunshine Tour, and rising star Casey Jarvis, defending champion Wilco Niraba, and several recent Sunshine Tour winners will also feature. And finally, Live Golf CEO Scott O'Neill has made clear their stance amid the ongoing rivalry between themselves and the PGA Tour, with a potential merger seemingly still improbable in the near future.
Happens, it's as I say, it's a small world and a long life, and I believe that the PGA Tour has done an extraordinary job in building that pyramid in the United States, and having those 43 events in the U.S. is really important, and a very important media market and a very important sport sponsor market. For Live Golf, we have the other 7.3 billion people to work with, and there's a lot of golf and a lot of golf interest. Incredible courses like Stain City here, incredible fan support like we're seeing, the 90,000 fans we'll have here. So I think there's a lot of interest around the world to support another global pyramid outside the U.S.
While golf wrapping up a busy day on the National Sporting Pulse, I'm Zaikan. I'll bring you more at the top of the hour.
Perfect. Thanks for that. Looking forward to connecting with you, sport and all, with Zai.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
It's been fascinating watching Paul O'Sullivan testify, and the questions coming from, effectively the parliamentarians too, and listening, getting your comments too, which we will play when we get the opportunity. Let's, however, get to the markets now with Paswani Patlele. Paswani, you got news about Pick and Pay, right?
afternoon, Ashraf. Yes, Pick n Pay gave us a trading update, and they're reporting on some level of operational progress they're making. When you look at their like-for-like stores, they're showing some positive demand is improving and stabilizing, and they still got some momentum coming from online sales. And of course, Boxer strong, providing some support. But generally, it came to market as disappointing as their earnings side. They expect a bigger loss from the previous period as the revenue is lagging, as the guys still absorb this tough competitive consumer cycle, impacting the impact of their store closures. And the stock was down as much as now currently 9-10%. And now for them, it's just trying to keep up that momentum of sales for like going forward. When we look into the market developments, markets remain focused on US data, with the big one coming tomorrow. The VIX today is sitting below 20, reflecting that there's still some investable opportunities in the market with lesser risk. We've received the likes of the US retail sales for December that talk to consumer spending that drives over 60% of their GDP. That was rather muted, reflecting that consumers are declining on those big item purchases. And this has responded with markets showing a dip in some of from the dovish data from the likes of yields, and bets are growing for more rate cuts. Now they're trying to move from 2 to 3 cuts expected in 2026. Dollar remained muted to lower, and this offered gold some opportunity to ease some of its losses. We see now it's just down 0.1 to $5,051 an ounce, when the likes of oil prices remain positive, up 0.4 at $69.35 a barrel. The likes of Alphabet in the US were issued a 100-year bond, and they're signaling these big tech and AI companies that they're shifting to the AI spending is shifting from structural to long term. When we look into the US, how it opened, we're seeing marginal gains. Dow's up 0.3, S&P, and the Nasdaq is flat. In Europe, FTSE is down 0.3, CAC is flat. When we look on the JSE board, we're seeing the likes of the JSEs up 0.4, support coming from the resource sector up 1.1%, followed by the financials up 0.9, industrials are down 0.6. When we close down with those currency movements, we're seeing some slight weakness around the rand, but it's healthy below 16 at 15.93 rand against the euro, 18.96 rand against the pound, 21.80.
Thank you for that, Paswani. We'll connect again tomorrow. And a reminder, Jimmy Moyaha takes over 6 to 7 this evening with a full hour of the markets.
X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Right, lots of comments, some in praise of O'Sullivan, from being competent to some saying he's just lying, to many other things too. Let's get back to the Parliament's Ad-Hoc Committee when you hear more of Paul O'Sullivan.
And I had a bullet hole in my car. In fact, I had a small chunk out of my thigh. The bullet actually singed my thigh and smashed the window and went through the door. And the same night, Mashuda Romano had a house in Northcliffe. And the same night, he was out at a function, and 2 guys arrived in a motor vehicle without number plates. And they tried to go into his property, but his bodyguards were there, and a shootout took place with the bodyguards. And then I said to Mashudu, I don't think you should stay at home until we get this contract dealt with and out of the way. Oh, I should mention 2 days or 3 days before that, Kusalani Security had launched an urgent application in the High Court to prevent to interdict the cancellation. And in that application, they also indicated that they had been informed by the Commissioner of Police that the police would be taking over the security management of the national key points. And the national key points, we had 10 airports, but only 3 of them were national key points. And I had become the national key points officer for the owner of the national key points, which was AXA. So,
Mr. O'Sullivan, do you have a copy in these documents? We don't have a copy of that court order.
So unfortunately, Chair, I tried to get a copy of that court order, and I think I phoned the attorneys, I think either in your presence or advocate presence, and they said that they would look for it, but it's like 25 years ago.
Do you remember what the outcome of the order was?
The order was that their urgent application was dismissed with costs, and the contract was cancelled.
I have here an article from a newspaper from 23 years ago. Airport security boss faces VAT fraud. What it says is that the Kuselani Security settled with the airport, and its contract ran its course, but it was not renewed. What is your comment to that?
No, the contract was cancelled. In fact, we brought in a number of other companies. And to my memory, one of the companies was Fidelity. There was another company called Protea Security. And I still remember somebody accusing me of being a shareholder of Protea Security, which at the time was owned by Tokyo Sequali Velapanda Group. And we replaced Kuselani completely, and they were gone from the airports.
Okay. I would like to then bring you back to my question before we went down the road of talking about the cancellation of the contract. It's still unclear how the late former national commissioner features in this specific contract. But to that end, I can take you to paragraph 26 of your statement.
Yes, okay, thank you.
Before paragraph 26,
yes.
You mentioned that he was one of the people that where you conducted an investigation, and you found that he'd been somewhat involved with Kuselani.
Correct.
At paragraph 26, you then mentioned that whilst Mr. Mashudu Ramano was in hiding during October 2001, which is the incident that you've just described, that there was a shootout outside of his house.
Sorry,
officials...
Chair,
yes.
That's not correct. The shootouts had taken place before then, and then he was in hiding.
Yes.
So
That's what I'm intimating,
yes,
that
okay.
whilst he was in hiding after the shootout.
After the shootout, yes.
Whilst he was in hiding after the shootout, during October 2001, police officials reporting to Silebi tracked Romano to the hotel he was staying at. Could you expand on that statement?
Yes, Chairman. He was arrested and detained as allegedly being an illegal immigrant. And on the day he was arrested, I didn't know he'd been arrested. In the afternoon, I think in those days, the Mail and Guardian used to come out on a Friday or Thursday. I can't remember exactly what day it is. But on the day in question, I got a phone call from a journalist at the Mail and Guardian who told me, by the way, you know, we're going to ask you some questions. We're running a story tomorrow. And I said, okay, what are the questions? He said, well, first of all, do you know that your chairman is an illegal immigrant? And I said, no, he can't possibly be an illegal immigrant. I know his family, because after I became friends with him, which we did, I had flown to his mother's funeral. In fact, I flew him up in my plane to his mother's funeral in Thohoyandou. So I knew that he wasn't an illegal immigrant. But what had happened was, unfortunately, his ID book, his name was spelled wrong. His ID book was spelled Ramango instead of Romano. And he explained that to me as being because when he was born, his mother went to the police station to register his birth. And she gave the name, and the policeman who wrote down the name wrote down Ramango instead of Romano. So, but he knew that he was a Romano, not a Ramango. So after that, he had to rectify. But in the meantime, This reporter then accused me of being a shareholder of Protea Security or being a shareholder of Mvelapanda. And I said, no, that's rubbish. He said, I've got your bank statements here. Your bank statement shows that you received R500,000 last week or the week before.
Did you receive R500,000 from
Yeah,
Velapande?
No, not from, I'd sold some shares.
Okay.
So,
To Velapande?
No, I had nothing to do with Velapande. I'd sold some unit trusts, in fact, shares. I'd sold some unit trusts. So, you know, you buy and sell, and, you know, that's how it works. So I had nothing to do with Mvelapanda at all. And so I said this to the journalist. And the next day, there was a headline in the Mail and Guardian that Mashuda Romano was arrested and detained for being a legal immigrant. And by the way, in the morning, I got a phone call from Mashudu. He said, they've just released me.
This is about 23 years ago.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, hang on. That was 2001.
Yes, about 25 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or 24 years ago, because it was, I think, October 2001.
Okay.
And he said, they've just released me. And I said, thank God, I've been trying to get hold of you. I said, thank God, I've been trying to get hold of you. What happened? And then he gave me this explanation that I've just given you now about the Romango, the Romano, and so on and so forth.
Your role at this point, you'd been now at EXA for a couple of months. How involved was your role? I mean, you started, you've testified that you cancelled, you basically did an audit of all the contracts, and you found that there were irregularities. You cancelled a number of the contracts.
So it was one big contract.
But you mentioned a number of others that were also
that
quite...
was equipment tenders.
Yes.
That wasn't a contract, that was a tender.
Okay. My question, Mr. O'Sullivan, is basically leading to your role. How involved was your role at EXA? How much time did you require in order to execute all the things that you were doing?
Well, I hit the ground running, and I spent literally 7 days a week there doing this. And unfortunately, the airports, regrettably, were in a mess. If I had to tell you, in the first 4 months of my being at Airports Company, we had multiple robberies, including airside robberies, where bandits came into the airport and held up people that were unloading cash and diamonds from a KLM flight. $26 million was stolen from a Swiss air flight. And this was causing chaos because the people in the outside world were starting to say, well, hang on a minute. Look at all these heists going on at the airport. And of course, unfortunately, they were all happening at Joburg Airport.
And this was during your role specifically at EXA as head of security.
Correct.
And at paragraph 29 of your statement, you say that by 2001, although I was a senior executive at EXA, I still maintained my role as a reservist at the Border Police, as the work was complementary. You've just testified that your role was 7 days a week, and it was very involved. You hit the ground running. How did you manage to balance your role as an executive at EXA and still provide volunteer work as a reservist at the Border Police?
Well, probably that's easy to explain because my Border Police work was at Johannesburg Airport. And 99%, so we kept records of where the security incidents took place over the 10 airports. And 99% of all the security incidents were taking place at Johannesburg Airport. So I knew that if I could fix Johannesburg Airport, I would fix the problems at all the airports. And I suppose you can say this, in fact, I've used the expression, the work was complementary. So being a police reservist, I'm wearing 2 hats now because I'm also seeing through 2 sets of eyes. I'm seeing what I would see as a policeman, I'm also seeing now as a security specialist. And I'm now starting to say, aha, one way to solve this problem is we put security controls in on these doors with card readers. And now people won't be able to open and close those doors without having proper identity systems in place. So it complemented itself like that.
Honorable Skosana.
Thank you. Mr. Oliver, I just want you to clear this up. Earlier you said that you were appointed as well because 3 airports were national key points, am I right?
Correct.
And you are now a national key point official.
Correct.
Without being vetted.
Well, I think at that stage they didn't require vetting. It only came later.
National key point?
Yes. At that time, National Key Points Act did not require the people to be vetted.
Anyway, I won't be surprised. I'll just make a comment on that. I mean, you had any qualification, formal education, when you were appointed as a group executive. Am I right?
Well, there were no qualifications in the field of aviation security other than the ICAO certificate, which I had.
Yeah, no. Because it's a clarity question, I'll ask you tomorrow. What I'm saying is, remember, we agreed earlier that the post was advertised. That's what you said.
Correct.
And the requirements, you don't remember what were the requirements?
That's 26 years ago. There was an advertisement. A person had to be competent at the job and had to demonstrate a proven knowledge of aviation security. I can't remember what else.
Yeah, it's fine, because remember that they recruited you from property development and tourism company. You had no experience of that. And as well, earlier, you had no experience of security.
Yes, I had experience of security.
That forensic security you're talking about, your company.
Pardon?
Your company. The experience was from your company.
Airports company, you mean?
No. I'm saying the experience you had, was it from your own company?
No, Chairman, I had worked as a country manager for Chubb Security.
Yes, I'm aware. It says so, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, and you were running your property development company and the tourism company.
Well,
at the same time.
The tourism company's chairman were non-executive positions.
Yes.
I wasn't running those companies. They would have had executives that ran those companies. I had a non-executive position where I was invited to contribute because of my knowledge in the tourism industry.
Yeah, no, it's fine. We are talking more about this. What I'm saying to you, what I want to put it to you, when I want a clarity on this one. Remember, you said to us that some of your people you trained, the 1,500 people, some went to PAL, college or what? Am I right?
No, I went to PAL.
Only you?
It might have been some of the others who went there, but they did their training in Johannesburg.
Yeah, but at the later stage. Okay. I wanted that only for you to say to us that the each which is asking you. Now, I think on paragraph 29, where you said you put up 70 hours and 80 hours at border policing, between port roads, it doesn't make sense.
Why not?
You said there were 13 airports, am I right?
No, 10 airports.
10 airports, yes. The 3 were. And now you were able to run that as well, and the border.
I worked 70 to 80 hours a week. By the way, I still do.
When?
Okay, Honorable Member, let's proceed. Let's take.
It's fine. We'll see tomorrow, Chair.
Honorable Malema.
Thanks, Chair. The evidence leader is leaving a very important point. She tried to ask you about Jegis levy in relation to the cancellation of that big contract.
Mm-hmm.
And you have not said anything except that funny things started happening to you, and policemen that are reporting to him, I would imagine, it's a national commissioner police report to him, went to arrest Ramano. And they said, no, he's an illegal foreign. So I don't know. I don't see where does Jegis levy get in relation to this cancellation of this contract.
Okay, I'll repeat what I said earlier, Chairman, which is that Jegis levy attended a meeting which had been arranged by Andre Price, who at the time was the Deputy National Commissioner for operations. And the purpose of the meeting was to inform AXA that this is after we sent a letter of cancellation to Kusalani Security. It was like 3 days later. The purpose of the meeting was to inform us that he, Jackie Salebi, was going to arrange for the cabinet to take a decision to move the National Key Points Act responsibility from army to police. And because of that, he wanted a situation where the current incumbent, namely Kusalani Security, would not be fired, but they would still be in place. Their contract would not be terminated. So as a result of that, as I said earlier, we had a meeting internally in AXA, and a decision was taken that we could not accede to that request for a number of reasons, and the main reason being that they were undersupplying on the posts, they were committing fraud, they were committing corruption, and they were leaving gates open, and they were allowing major security issues to take place at the airports.
I understand that. I want to know, did Jackie Salebi say with his mouth, do not cancel a Kusalani security contract in that meeting?
Yes.
What evidence do we have about that?
It was a meeting. I didn't record it. I didn't.
The minutes?
Pardon?
Are the minutes of that meeting?
There were letters sent. 25 years ago, I don't have those letters now.
No, not letters.
There were letters sent confirming what he had said and confirming that AXA had taken a decision to go ahead and cancel the contract anyway.
Okay. And then the last question from me. You never had a vetting certificate to be such a senior person dealing with aviation security at a national key point.
There was no legal requirement for a vetting certificate at that time.
That's fine, but you never had a vetting.
I never had one because there was no legal requirement for one.
No, that's fine. Whether legal requirement or not, you never had a vetting.
As I said.
You were never vetted in your entire life.
As I said, I never had a vetting because there was no legal requirement.
Okay. Can we proceed?
Thank you, Chairperson. We are at paragraph 33 of your statement. You say that subsequently your contract was terminated from AXA. What was the reason for the termination of your contract?
Because Jackie Salebi had intimated, he had gone to NICOC, I don't know how you say it, and they had changed the rules, and anybody that sat on the National Aviation Security Committee would have to have a security clearance of secret. And
You've been hearing the voice of the private investigator Paul O'Sullivan. But what else is happening in South Africa, around the world? Let's get the news with Greg Host. It's 5 o'clock.
Thank you, Ashraf, and we'll have more on O'Sullivan's testimony. Other news, a legal loss for Thabo Bester and a recall of some peanut butter products. Good day to you. Thabo Bester's urgent application to be moved back to a prison in Gauteng has been struck off the roll by the High Court in Pretoria. The convicted rapist and murderer is currently being held at a correctional facility in KwaZulu-Natal after being transferred from Pretoria without any notice. Following this, he took to the courts on the basis that he's facing difficulties consulting with his legal team from the prison in Kokstad and that his transfer was unlawful. In her ruling, Judge Elizabeth Kubishi ordered that the application be struck off the roll due to it not being properly enrolled by Bester's attorneys.
There is therefore no cogent reason mentioned in the founding affidavit why this matter was set down on such stringent timeframes without giving the respondent adequate time to file their answering affidavits. I am thus not persuaded that this matter is so urgent that anything more drastic than enrollment on the motion roll in the ordinary course and on short notice is required. The matter is to be struck off the roll because it was not properly enrolled, and the applicant is at liberty, if he so wishes, to enroll it properly for the next urgent court roll.
Private investigator Paul O'Sullivan, a witness before Parliament's Ad-Hoc Committee looking into concerns of national security, has denied he was ever involved in South Africa's state security machinery. He's assured MPs that despite having a British passport, among others, he's never been involved in any activities as a foreign agent. He told MPs he received permanent residency in South Africa in 1989. A year later, he became a police reservist. The committee's evidence leader, Norman Arendse, questioned whether O'Sullivan's service as a police reservist and consequent training and involvement in the police service was of noble intention.
Mr. O'Sullivan, is it your evidence today that you've at no stage ever been involved with the security police, either before 1994, before 1992, when things started to change in this country, or afterwards?
As God is my witness, I was never involved with the security police in South Africa.
The suspended Ekululeni Human Resources head, Linda Gatgasha's testimony at the Matlanga Commission has been moved to the 26th and 27th of this month. She was supposed to testify this afternoon. She's been accused of shielding the suspended Ekululeni Deputy Police Chief, Julius Mkwanazi, from facing disciplinary action related to the Blue Light saga. Evidence leader Lisa Khuzingube.
Yesterday afternoon, we received a supplementary statement from Ms. Kasheka's attorneys. It's 44 pages long. We have not yet had an opportunity to fully prepare on that statement in order for us to do her cross-examination. The intention was that we would start with her statement, but due to scheduling issues, we need to reschedule her evidence so that we can start and finish it all in one go.
Anti-corruption movement Transparency International says South Africa's made no progress in combating corruption over the past 3 years. The movement's 2025 Corruption Perceptions Index has found worsening corruption and a decline in leadership globally, with South Africa stagnating with a score of 41. This is the same as last year, with a score still below the global average of 42. The butternut peanut butter and chocolate peanut products are being recalled. Consumers in possession of these products are urged to check the manufacturing date of January 15th this year and the best before date of July 2027. Commission spokesperson Peto Ntaba
informed the Commission that the recall is as a result of the higher than legally acceptable levels of aflatoxin detected in the product. Essentially, these products failed to meet quality standards as set out under the Department of Health's Regulation 1145, governing tolerance of fungus-produced toxins in foodstuffs. Aflatoxin may lead to health complications, including nausea, vomiting, and abdominal pain. We urge consumers to check the manufacturing date, which is the 15th of January 2026, and the best before date, which is the 13th of July 2027, 15th of July, 17th of July, and 28th of July 2027.
The top story, Thabo Besta's urgent application to be moved back to a prison in Gauteng has been struck off the roll by the High Court. That's SAFM News. I'm Greg Khos.
And let's go into your National Pulse sport. We've got the Proteas women in game day mode in Potchefstroom as World Cup build-up continues against Pakistan. And in soccer news, Rulani Mokoena returns to Horn Sundowns in a decisive CAF Champions League showdown. The details around 5:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N1 southbound has delays towards Grasmere services. There's a crash on the N12 eastbound after Atlas Road, and Grayston Drive eastbound in Sandton has a crash at Rivonia Road. In KZN, the M13 westbound in Pinetown queuing towards Stapleton Road. The M4 northbound has a vehicle fire incident reported near Broadway Durban North exit, and the M25 Commercial Highway westbound has a crash after the R102 Duffs Road exit. In Cape Town, Christian Barnard Street outbound has heavy traffic towards the N1 highway, Main Road in Rondebosch, slow moving at Belmont Road, and Mike Pinaud Boulevard northbound in Belleville, queuing towards Frans Conradi Drive. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
Koketso Sachane on SAFM.
Not so national importance announcement by John Steenhuisen.
we are all important to ourselves. Like, when you come and tell us, if you have to come and give me an announcement, I must believe that that announcement is important to you and it's important to the people around your circle, because they themselves are losing a political figure, right? It's of national importance in and around your neighborhood. And I think that's what he meant.
On a serious note, though, what do you make of what's happening?
I think it was almost inevitable, right? Because when you listen to war strategists, they'll tell you never fight a war on two fronts. And in this case, John Steenhuisen was fighting a war on three fronts, right?
The Meeting Point, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 10 p.m. For 90 years, one voice has informed, challenged, and connected a nation. SAFM, South Africa's national English public radio station. Established in 1936 as the SABC's very first service, the A program evolving through the English service, Radio South Africa to SAFM in 1995, shaping thought and strengthening democracy. From a full-spectrum station to a trusted home of news and talk, SAFM continues to lead the conversations 90 years strong. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Well, private investigator Paul O'Sullivan has been saying lots of things on today's at today's Parliament Ad Hoc Committee. He's here in person, not in camera, in person. And amongst the things he's saying, Jackie Salebi is the one who got him out of AXA, right? There we are. And there's more. But let's do this. This is the National Pulse. Yes, I know there's people messaging and sending us WhatsApps, and if I can get a chance, I'll play them. But for now, I know you don't want to miss a word of what Paul O'Sullivan says. So let's get back to the Ad Hoc Committee.
You are listening to the Ad Hoc Committee, live on SAFM.
Clearance. You confirmed that you did not have it. And then when the council asked you about your dismissal, you said, should I wait for you? Can I proceed?
Thank you.
When the council asked you about your dismissal, and then you confirmed that you were dismissed by Mr. Jackie Salebi, because you had no security clearance. And the justification, according to your logic, for not having a clearance, a security clearance, is that there was no legal requirement at the time. Is that correct?
So, almost correct.
Yeah. Now, what precipitates my confusion here is that I find it very ironic that Mr. Salebi can dismiss you on the basis of a requirement which is not prescribed by the law.
So, Chairman, I can explain that. First of all, Jackie Salebi didn't dismiss me.
No, terminated your contract.
He didn't terminate my contract. My contract wasn't a contract with the police. My contract was a contract with Airports Company South Africa. And what happened was Jackie Salebi first attempted to have the National Key Points Act changed so that the National Key Points would report to the police. And the next thing he did, he went to NICOC, and he got them to change the regulations so that everybody that sat on the National Aviation Security Committee would have to have security clearance. So they brought in a new regulation. And I couldn't meet that regulation because I didn't have security clearance.
So it became a requirement.
It became a requirement
at a later stage.
Yes, after I was.
So at the time when you were appointed, it was not a requirement.
Correct.
That is your logic.
Well, that's a fact.
Oh, thank you, Chair.
I want us to take a break, Kawazela, at what time?
I think this part is almost done. So I think we should be done by past to take a break.
Okay.
Yeah. Mr. O'Sullivan, if I can just then maybe just to wrap up this part of your evidence, you say that, I'll just read it into the record. Under Selebi, this is at paragraph 37. Under Selebi, the police was effectively captured by the criminal underworld. I'll give you an opportunity to just give your final comment. With many criminals having friends in the police to keep them out of prison, the growing trail of evidence and media exposés were starting to take their toll on the relationship between Selebi and President Thabo Mbeki. This is very similar to what has been testified regarding the events that led up to the 6th of July. The narrative is quite similar. However, in 2006 and 2007, President Thabo Mbeki tried to help Selebi in the return of securing his own political future in Polokwane. And it goes on, it can be read into the record. The question that I have specifically in relation to that paragraph, just to be, for the sake of completion, you then go on to say that prior to December 2007, there was a coordinated effort by President Mbeki and an overseas-based agent, Mr. Andre Pienaar, to save Selebi on the one hand, yet arrest and charge Zuma on the other hand. They failed. President Mbeki and Pienaar's plans fell apart at the ANC conference in Polokwane. And you complete your paragraph by stating that the disbanding of Scorpions was intended to curtail high-profile corruption investigations, particularly with regard to those near and dear to the senior politicians. My question for you in respect of that paragraph 37, it's quite convoluted and a lot can be said about that paragraph, is how did your collaborate, in your view, what was the impact of Mr. Selebi's tenure as commissioner on the integrity of police and services?
Chairman, I became aware of appointments that were being made in the police of individuals being promoted into positions that they weren't suitable for. For example, Richard Mdluli was made the national head of crime intelligence. There were other appointments. I can't remember the names of the people now, but people were being appointed that weren't qualified. And I think it became apparent that from the evidence and the statements I took, that these things were happening because we had a corrupt chief of police. So I intensified I didn't believe that South Africa would benefit from having a corrupt chief of police. And I also didn't believe it would be in the interest of South Africa to have a corrupt police chief allowed to continue in return for arresting and charging a person that had aspirations to become the president of the country, for example, Jacob Zuma. And I felt that this kind of activity cried out for intervention. So I stepped up my investigations, and the rest is history. I managed to get sworn statements from witnesses linking Glenn Agliotti to drug trafficking, linking Glenn Agliotti to counterfeit cigarette importation from Zimbabwe, and linking Glenn Agliotti to payments being made to Jackie Selebi.
How did you specifically uncover the drug trafficking that Agliotti was involved with? Could you expand?
Sorry, Chair, before that. On a point of correction, Richard Mdluli became head of crime intelligence under President Zuma, Nathi Mthethwa, not under President Mbeki.
Sorry, Chairman. Richard Gluli was appointed not National Head of Crime Intelligence. Thank you for assisting me there. He was appointed Provincial Head of Crime Intelligence in Gauteng by Jackie Salebi. Thank you for pointing that out to me.
Just for the purposes of the committee, at page 74 of the annexures, it's B74, you have enclosed a report which details the specific persons that you say were involved in the various criminal activities. However, my question to you at this stage is, you say that you uncovered drugs, drug trafficking.
Correct.
In the timeline where we are, you have left your role as head of security at AXA. You are now back in business and also doing reservist work.
No.
How? Yes.
I was no longer reservist, Chair, because Jackie Salebi terminated my role as a police reservist. And he inspired the need to terminate my role as head of aviation security. So I had no police work after that.
What were you doing at the time?
Property development.
What you say that you were investigating various things. Why were you investigating as a property developer?
Because I wanted to live in a country where there was a rule of law. I wanted to live in a country where a person who did his job well wouldn't be fired because somebody wants to commit the offense of corruption without being caught. I wanted to live in a country where security contracts were not given to the person that paid the highest bribe, but they were given to the company best suited to provide the service, and that would make the airport safe. I didn't want to live in a country where something tragic should happen, for example, like 911. I didn't want to live in a country where you could go to the police station to open a case and the criminal that committed the offense would get away with it because he paid a bribe to the police. I realized by 2003 that we were on a slippery slope, and the best way to get off that slippery slope was to bring back some ethics into the police.
Okay. You were at the point, I actually derailed you by asking a different question, but you were about to explain what you uncovered, how you uncovered. It's not necessarily specifically about Glenn Agliotti, but it's more about your investigative work into drug trafficking. And you were about to expand on how you managed to uncover drug trafficking, which Glenn Agliotti had been involved in.
Yes, Chairman, obviously you get somebody phones you, gives you information. I think it became common knowledge that I was looking into Jackie Salebi. And you sniff around and you get information, but you can't prove anything. But somebody gave me a tip-off that actually, if you want information, this fellow Glenn Agliotti is involved in drug trafficking, and this is how he does it. But I had no evidence. So I decided to go and get that evidence. And I was given the name of the company and the name of the person that managed the company that imported the narcotics and distributed the narcotics. So once I had that information, I then realized, well, hang on a minute. I can go to that company and see if they can provide evidence. So I arranged a meeting. It just coincidentally happened.
It sounds like you stumbled upon that evidence, but in fact, you were investigating the former commissioner.
Correct.
Okay.
So it just so happened that when I was a police reservist, I had been running a drug-free schools project in my spare time. And that drug-free schools project resulted in us, a team of us, going around all the schools and explaining to the children how drugs are bad for you.
When did you start that project?
That would have been the mid-90s.
Whilst you were a reservist?
Correct.
Okay.
And one of the schools I went to was Houghton Primary School. We went to a lot of schools. We felt it was important not just to focus on high schools, but to also focus on primary schools, because primary school leavers become high school students. And whilst there's probably not much drugs being sold at primary schools, once they get to a high school, the drugs are being sold there. And we decided that the best thing to do is start with one level of education for the primary schools and another one for the high schools. And obviously the education for the high schools was more age relevant, and the education for the primary schools was also age relevant. And as a result of this interaction with the primary schools, one of the schools I went to, I mentioned, was Houghton Primary School. And the headmaster there happened to be the brother of the father of the guy that was running the transport company that was moving Glenn Agliotti's drugs around.
What was the name of the person who was moving the drugs around?
Anthony Dormel.
Okay.
So I arranged a meeting with Anthony Dormel's father, which is Chris Dormel. And we had a meeting at their house, be about 20 years ago, maybe more. And we had a meeting at the house. And when I had that first meeting, I suggested that I would like to have a meeting with the son. And I explained to them exactly why. That I'd want this son to understand what's happening with the stuff that he's moving around. Now, we had that meeting, and he agreed that actually he always suspected that there was something wrong, but he didn't know what. And he agreed to set out chapter and verse. And as a result, we went to a shipment that he had stored at a warehouse on the East Rand. And there was about 200 million rands worth of drugs there.
What did you do with that information? Once you got to the scene, what was your first reaction?
And my first reaction was to take a sworn statement from the guy, because what you always like to do is make sure you get something in writing.
Okay, so you got a sworn statement, and what was the next step?
Then I went back to the Scorpions, who I'd met with a couple of years earlier, and I said, listen, I think we've now got something.
So you reported this drug bust to the Scorpions?
They did the drug bust. I didn't do the drug bust.
Okay. So you accompanied the Scorpions to a venue where there was an operation undergoing?
No, I didn't do that either.
Okay.
What I did was, I showed them the sworn statement I had from this individual, and I asked them, would they be prepared to meet with this individual and take this matter over, and they agreed to do that. And then I introduced them. We had a meeting at McDonald's in Bruma. Not Bruma, East Rand Mall. We had a meeting at McDonald's in East Rand Mall. And that would have been about 95, maybe 96. I can't remember the exact year. And we had a meeting there, and we sat there for 4.5 hours, where they interrogated this fellow. And
what is the outcome?
They made a decision to mount an operation.
Okay.
And the operation they mounted lasted for a month or two, and then they busted them and they arrested them all. And then they arrested Glenn Agliotti.
And what was the final, the ultimate consequence for Mr. Selebi?
The ultimate consequence for Mr. Selebi was that he was convicted of 6 counts of corruption and sentenced to 15 years in prison.
From the investigations that you would have conducted, what did you actually discover?
How do you mean?
What came out of your investigations? You said that all of these things that you've been testifying about are things that were on this, like almost on the side, it's not what you were necessarily investigating. The person that you were after was Selebi. But we've spoken about the various things that have came out of the investigations, but not specifically linking to Commissioner Selebi.
Yes, so what happened was I was getting some challenges, shall we say. I got a tip-off that there would be an attempt on my life, that I would be murdered. So I started taking more precautions. And then I got a tip-off that actually, they decided they couldn't get to me, so they would murder my family. So I moved my family out of the country. And that was in 1996. And then the Scorpions, through their investigation, had dealt with the drugs, the 200 million rands worth of drugs. They'd arrested a number of people. Some of them pleaded guilty and went to prison. They arrested and charged Glenn Agliotti, and they arrested and charged another gentleman by the name of Clinton Nassif, and they entered into plea bargain agreements where they agreed to plead guilty in terms of Section 105A of the Criminal Procedures Act. They agreed to plead guilty and get a suspended sentence and then give evidence about other activities. And the other activities they gave evidence about were the payments that they had made to Jackie Selebi.
Okay. At page 14, at the top of your statement, you say, based on the case I had assembled against him, speaking about Selebi, the then President Kgalema Motlanthe terminated Selebi's contract. In 2010, Selebi was convicted and sentenced to 15 years. This sentence, this paragraph implies that it was as a result of the investigation that you had conducted against Mr. Selebi.
Yeah,
is that correct?
Perhaps that's a little bit too much, because in fact what I had done, I'd carried out an investigation which triggered the production of the evidence which led to Jackie Selebi being arrested and charged.
Okay.
So if it's like anything else, I had started work which became the catalyst for the criminal charges which he faced.
What was the motivation for you investigating him?
As I said earlier, Chairman, I wanted to live in a country where there's a rule of law. I didn't want to live in a country where a chief of police could be so corrupt that he could enter into an agreement that would assist a sitting president to arrest and charge a future possible president, because I felt that that was like completely wrong, regardless of what and at the time I didn't know who became President Zuma, I didn't know him from a bar of soap, so I had no knowledge.
Would it be fair to say that as a result of Mr. Selebi not granting you security clearance, you then investigated him? What would your comment be to that statement?
Yeah, I think that's not correct. And the reason it's not correct is because it's like a domino effect, isn't it? If you don't do this, this will happen, then that will happen, then that will happen, then that will happen. He was going behind my back and having secret meetings with a view to having me dismissed. Why? Because we refused to kowtow to this idea of allowing his friend. In fact, I went a step further. The criminal case I opened against his friend resulted in his friend going to prison for 5 years. So he just badly wanted me out of the way. And because of the lawlessness of that...
Of the way. Got that? 5:30. Here's the news headlines with Greg Horse.
Quick look at the headlines. President Ramaphosa and his Russian counterparts have pledged their support to the process of returning South Africans trapped in Ukraine, fighting alongside Russian forces. Convicted rapist and murderer Thabo Besta's urgent application to be moved back to a prison in Gauteng has been struck off the roll, and Transparency International says the US has sunk to its lowest ever score in the watchdog's annual report. All those details and more at 6 o'clock.
SAFM.
guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound queuing towards Boysens, the N3 southbound in Germiston, slow moving towards Geldenhuys interchange, and Solomon Mhlangu Drive in Pretoria has delays at the N4 highway. In KZN, the M25 Commercial Highway westbound has a crash after the R102 Duffs Road exit, the M13 westbound in Pinetown queuing towards Stapleton Road, and on the M4 northbound, a vehicle fire incident reported near the Broadway Durban North exit. In Cape Town, the N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound has heavy traffic towards Hospital Bend, the M5 southbound queuing towards Military Road, and Stellenbosch Artel Road eastbound in Belhar queuing towards Symphony Way. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
So, Zai, up to now, the focus has been on the South African men's cricket team, but there's also a focus that we should pay attention to the women's team. They have their own plans.
Hey, that's right. Ashraf, game day mode with the women. Potchefstroom lights on, the pads are strapped on, and the World Cup planning and thinking is already switched on. So that's what we can look forward to tonight. It's a game day for the Proteas women as their preparations begin against Pakistan tonight. Captain Laura Wolfart wants her side playing brave cricket, with Nadine de Klerk expected to have a big say. First ball at 6 p.m. under lights, and you can catch it live on SABC Sport. Now on to the men's side, where the veteran Proteas batter David Miller says there's a different energy around this South African side at the T20 World Cup following their emphatic win, and that was their win against Canada. Miller believes maturity and clarity around roles are helping the Proteas handle pressure better.
I'll put it down to the squad's played a lot together for a number of years, so it's just having faith and trust in each other. It's not really necessarily trying to do too much out of the box. It's just making sure that you do your job and get it done properly. So I think that it comes with time. We've played a lot together, and yeah, it kind of does feel calm. The guys are nice and focused, as I said. And we just take one game at a time and just make sure that build up from that 2024 final that we lost. Just take a lot of confidence from that. Nonetheless, it was a great game, and hopefully go one step further.
And we can look forward to that action first thing when it comes to the men's cricket action tomorrow, and that starts from 7:30 a.m. in the morning. They'll be taking on Afghanistan. In the meanwhile, former Mamelodi Sundowns coach Rulani Mokoena returning to Loftus Versfeld this week, this time as an opponent. Sundowns face MC Alger in a decisive CAF Champions League group clash with qualification for the knockout stages on the line. Mokoena sit a point ahead, meaning Sundowns must win to stay alive in the competition. Golf now, the Live Golf CEO Scott O'Neill has made clear their stance amid the ongoing rivalry between themselves and the PGA Tour, with a potential merger seemingly still improbable in the near future. With the official world golf ranking system now recognizing Live, albeit awarding points only to top 10 finishers at each of the 14 events, O'Neill welcomes this initial progress.
I've never been defined by my patience, and certainly have been by my ambition. And I will tell you that I feel like the world rankings was a wonderful step. Their chairman is a South African, Trevor Immelman, Masters champion, wonderful leader, incredible executive, as well as a golfer and commentator. And I think he did a really incredible job in getting us to this first step.
And finally, in a dramatic end to a remarkable journey for South African sailing, the race-winning Cape to Rio yacht Angel Wings has sunk on its return voyage to Cape Town after suffering catastrophic damage at sea. All 3 sailors on board were rescued unharmed during a coordinated operation more than 1,500 kilometers off the coast of Rio de Janeiro. The boat had made history, winning the Cape to Rio race on handicap with a young team from the Royal Cape Yacht Club Sailing Academy, many from disadvantaged communities, overcoming immense odds to claim victory. And that's the end of the National Pulse Sport. There's more sport coming up with Michael Abramson on Top Sport between 7 and 8. I'm Zykan.
Thanks for that, Zai. Absolutely, and lots to cover tonight and tomorrow when Zai gets back on in the morning. This is the National Pulse.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
So an hour of the markets and a whole lot more coming up with Jimmy Moyaha. But to set the scene, Jimmy, you want to talk about Fly Safair?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Good afternoon to the listeners. I certainly do, because we got confirmation before midday today that Fly Safair officially has a new owner in the form of Harith Partners. They are subject to, obviously, the regular or standard conditions, approvals and requirements of these sorts of transactions, but we received confirmation that a deal has been struck there to buy out the rest of that business. We're going to take a look at that with an aviation expert and see if we can make sense of that development. We're also going to take a look at the revised unbundling plan from Eskom. This is a plan we initially had gotten back in 2019, I believe. If not before that, it was part of the initial transition of how we intended to at some point deal with Eskom. But in 2019 we got confirmation from President Cyril Ramaphosa around the fact that that plan was to go ahead, and it seems Eskom has proposed a revised version of that plan that has some material changes, material to the extent that various organizations like Business Leadership South Africa are deeply concerned about these revised plans. We're going to speak to Business Leadership South Africa CEO Busi Mavuso about this and get a sense of what these concerns look like and how they could affect this unbundling process. Then we've got a conversation taking a look at Takealot. It seems as though some of the local sellers that are listing their products on Takealot are expressing some concerns around foreign merchants and how the foreign merchants are potentially threatening their business. We're going to take a look at this and see if we can make sense of that as well. Then we've got a conversation with the chief economist at Standard Bank, or at the Standard Bank Group, rather, not Standard Bank South Africa, the Standard Bank Group, Gulam Balam, taking a look at what South Africa could be in store for in 2026, more particularly around ratings. Are we in line for potential ratings upgrades as we go into this year based on the performance of last year and how the market might be perceiving South Africa at the moment? Then we're going to wrap up the show, as we do on a Tuesday, with an agri conversation, or every other Tuesday rather, an agri conversation is what we have. We're going to be taking a look at the landmark agri trade deal that South Africa signed with China on Friday. Of course, because we don't have a show on Friday, we tend to miss out on some of these conversations as they break, but we never miss out on the opportunity to bring the conversations to our SFM community. So we're going to speak to senior agri-economist at FNB around that and get a sense of what this trade agreement would potentially mean for South Africa's agricultural sector going forward. Before we get to those conversations, a sense of market movements throughout the day. I wish it were more to report on, but it seems like a fairly modest day. Resource stocks up about 1.1%. The top 40 up about 0.59%. The all share up about 0.5%. Industrials down 2/3, but financials up 1.2%. The rand still below 16 rand against the US dollar, 15.96. It was better during the day, as low as 15.89 at one point, if I remember correctly. 21 rand 80 against the British pound, and €1 would cost you exactly 19 rand. It's been better this week alone. One Australian dollar, 11 rand 29 cents. What Bitcoin, 69,200. With that stronger rand, that still puts it above 1.1 million rand, but only by 7,000 rands there. If we look at the commodity markets, the gold price still above $5,000 a ounce, platinum still above 2,100, palladium still below 1,800, Brent crude closer to $70 a barrel than we'd like it to be, and the price of silver below $82 a fine ounce. International markets, European markets were a bit of a mixed bag, but Asian markets were in the green, especially the Nikkei, that was up about 2.2%. US markets at the moment flat on the part of the Nasdaq and a little in the green on the part of the S&P. Of course, those markets will trade into the evening. I have Chantal Marks of FNB Wealth and Investments on markets at today. So I want to get a sense of perhaps if markets are finally finding some way to deal with the volatility in the news. But of course, that conversation will come up just after the 6 p.m. news. For now, Ashraf, back to you.
Perfect. Thanks for that, Jimmy. And you have a great show. I'm going to hear from you next.
You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Right, so for now, the Parliamentary Ad-Hoc Committee is adjourned, which gives us a bit of a break, which gives us a chance to hear what you have to say. So listen to this.
Good day, Ashraf and the listeners. I think, Ashraf, we should call Paul O'Sullivan by the way we are calling the Mohodzis. That is a controversial private investigator, like the way we are calling Mohodzi and others.
So how is he being addressed? I mean, what's missing?
Hey, Ashraf, I'm listening to Paul O'Sullivan. The committee, those people are all over the place. You know, he's putting evidence to them, and they are so intent, they are so subjective, intent on nailing him. They keep on asking the same question. He keeps on giving them the same answers. That guy from Zuma's party, he's lost. That guy, he's lost. I don't even know what kind of questions he's asking. He's lost. The man is beating them at their own game. He came there prepared. He knows his story. He remembers the dates. And where it's convenient, he doesn't remember because it was 25 years ago. And they have no other way of getting to him. You know, let's wait for further testimony in the coming days from him. He has a lot more to reveal.
Okay, so I mean that's an interesting one in terms of what you are saying, and here's another.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. I've been listening to the questions that have been posed through the witness at the Parliamentary Ad Hoc Committee. It is really shocking to see that the parliamentarians themselves, they do not know that many years ago what seems to be the requirements to attain a certain qualification were not there. People were teachers with only standard 6 or standard 8 by that time, without even going to the training college. There was no requirement for a teacher to have a SACE or a doctor to be registered to a regulatory body, or even the engineers. When we arrived in the private institutions, including ESCOM and others, we found people being engineers without matric, but only having standard 7 or standard 8. And they were doing very well. This kind of questioning, it shows that these people are very ignorant. They don't even know that even today, someone can still have a degree without a matric. Even today. Or someone can still be an engineer only based on the RPL. Anonymous in Bologwane.
Okay, thank you for that. So you're suggesting they haven't quite done their homework in understanding how academia has changed over the years. The earlier point regarding, how Paul O'Sullivan is being addressed, because, so, I mean, the point, and I was chatting with Tema, my producer, about it, a reminder to say, are people not calling him or addressing him controversial private investigator Paul O'Sullivan? And why do others then get this appendage next to their name, first with a descriptive title as opposed to just what they do? So, private investigator, controversial private investigator, which one would you go for?
Hi, Ashraf. Hey, I'm really disappointed about this member of parliament. A member of parliament who doesn't know the distinction between the permanent residents, the citizenship. Man, these people that we have voted for parliament, it's really disappointing. And they go around. We need these guys to go to the issues that have been raised. It's like now they want to discredit Paul. We understand that part. But really, their level of questioning is really disappointing.
But I mean, here's a question. We don't know how long he's going to be there. The point is, isn't this part of the process as has been agreed upon before they actually get to the other things? Meaning, you may want to get to the penalty shootout ASAP, but part of their process is understanding just how qualified he may be. Yes, it may sound boring to you, but isn't that the way it should be?
Mr. Ashraf. I'm listening to this Sullivan questions and stuff, and it's clear to me that the members asking the question, they can't grasp the fact that, Mr. Sullivan was appointed and he excelled
clearly excel. That's why he could achieve all these achievements. So he was appointed, unlike today where we got cadre appointments and none of them can comply, and none of them can be result driven. I think that is the big difference. The incompetent, where this guy was appointed, most probably he never had a degree, but he could do the job. And he could excel, and that is why he could achieve all these other achievements. Where today we all get appointed and none of us can do the job. We're incompetent. Yeah, that is the difference.
Okay.
But yeah, so it's Malcolm here in Joburg.
Thanks
Thank
for that,
you.
Malcolm in Joburg. I mean, I hear you, and many people have said, oh, Sullivan has been terrific at what he's done. But are we suggesting, as you say, in his competence that he's done nothing wrong? He's been absolutely competent. That's it. On the other hand, in terms of we, as in the cadre deployments, I was suggesting that every appointment outside of Paul O'Sullivan like a cadre has always been a failure. Just something for you and I to consider, because I think sometimes generalizations, not sometimes, often, where we just generalize an entire nation in one way, well, it's just wrong.
Hi, Ashraf. Beggy here from Boxback. Look, I want Paul O'Sullivan to actually appear in the Madlanga Commission. That commission is well organized, less political, and their mandate is to get to the bottom of the truth. So he would have a torrid hard time there.
Well, I mean, it's something we spoke about before, the comparisons between the Madlanga Commission and the Parliamentary Ad-Hoc Committee, and just how that works out. So, point taken. And yeah, it would be fascinating indeed seeing how he shapes up then. But look, maybe it's early days for now with the Ad Hoc Committee. Really, give them time.
Hi, Ashraf.
Wait, I think I've done that. Sorry, my apology. Let's do that.
Good afternoon, Ashraf Gada and your beautiful workaholic team of producers behind you. My name is Mpepum Perenu from Limpopo Mkumbani Village. Sona is around the corner, Ashraf. I, for one, am tired of similar speeches ever since 1994. Jobs is the language of the day, but number of job seekers is increasing. Free education, but children always cry of an abscess. Free health care with no medication in hospitals. Some patients are sleeping on the floor in our hospitals. They are also proud of free monies in a form of grant, whereas the number of taxpayers is reducing. This is a true reflection of big number of grant recipients compared to workers who are paying tax. Ashraf, I'm tired of clapping hands when politicians are on the podium. ANC trees bears no fruits. Our tender entrepreneur build poor quality infrastructure. Our countryman Ashraf, no. I am Pipumperini, Limpopo Mkumbani Village.
Thank you. Yeah. I noted your point earlier, by the way, about the beautiful people who work here and the beautiful workaholics. I wonder if they call themselves beautiful or workaholics. I'll ask them just now.
Ashraf, good afternoon. Hey, I don't see why they called that guy, because he seemed to have forgotten everything.
So that means what? They should not have called him? It's early days, man. Let's see what happens. It really is early days.
Hi, Ashraf. It's Lizozo from East London. I must say I'm impressed by the Ad Hoc Committee questioning of Paul O'Sullivan. I didn't think they would do such a great job. But anyway, what I'm interested in is them and Paul O'Sullivan addressing the incident where he threatened Kabinde while Kabinde was testifying before the commission.
Okay, interesting you say that. Some people have been critical of the questions. You're saying great job from them. And listen to this one.
Hi, good afternoon, Ashraf. They seem to be treating this guy, Paul O'Sullivan, as a suspect of some kind, or as an enemy of theirs. They're just all over him. They're so combative and aggressive towards him. It's like they've forgotten what the purpose of the committee, the Ad Hoc Committee is all about. It's like he is the suspect here. It's Vika Pietermaritzburg. I don't know why they're doing it.
So how would you then propose they go about doing their work? I mean, they've been asking questions about his validity, his history, his qualifications and things like. if you're saying, he's like the suspect, does that mean you find they're being too hard on him? And if so, how would you change that? Just think about that. More to come here on the National Pulse.
Alcohol drowns our hope and fuels our pain. Our streets are flooded. Our families are breaking. Women and children are not safe. Alcohol kills 100 people in South Africa every day. For more information, visit www.truecostofalcohol.africa. Increase excise tax on alcohol.
What's stuff? Why is there a horse in your driveway?
You right, Savvy. Why drive a Mustang when you can ride one?
What the missus say?
Well, she had a bit of a long face, but now she's stable.
If you need a backup plan, We Buy Cars can sort you out.
Nah, Savvy, this thing is eco-chic.
Stop horsing around, cowboy. Rather get one of these from We Buy Cars.
What's the horsepower on that thing?
More than one, Doff. More than one.
Don't be Doff, be savvy. We Buy Cars, geared for adventure, geared for you.
Kathy Motlatlana on SAFM.
If you're ready to talk, I'm here to listen and nothing is off the agenda. Join me on the Talking Point every day from 9 a.m. to 12 noon. Only on SAFM.
X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
And there's a whole lot more that we can talk about. So one is about him being mistreated. Listen, talk about qualifications here as well.
Just responding to a comment by one of your WhatsApp messages, the guy is alluding to people can be engineers without degrees, just using RPL. And that is in contravention of the engineering profession. As we know, the private sector is guilty of this and appointing engineers just based on race and not qualification. The Engineering Professions Act prohibits that. You need to be qualified to practice as an engineer as much as you need to be qualified to practice as a doctor. So there's no RPL to become an engineer.
Okay, he was referring to the past. Has that changed? Does anybody know in terms of qualifications in that field? Has that changed over a period of time or not? He's referring to the past tense, right?
Ashraf, what a great job they talked about. It's not a great job at all. It's like a revenge. These people are out to try to put this person, this O'Sullivan, a fallen guy. He's not a good man, no doubt about that. But the facts are there. Many people, they put them to jail. What have they achieved? They want to try to score at cheap points,
Okay, the outs to get him. Your line's not very clear. I get that, but I certainly get the gist of what you're saying. And there's more. Hey, by the way, I know, just a reminder, some of the previous interviews we do, they're all available as podcasts. Go to safm.co, you'll find them all there. And I think you're going to really enjoy them. And then share it with your friends too.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Ellen Muripin Ranchabeling. You know what? Paul O'Sullivan undermines the commission too much. So I think he's just wasting our time, the state time. I think, and he's too old. I don't think even if they find him guilty after the commission is going to stay long in jail, So I think it is just a waste of time. Thank you.
But what does a waste of time mean? Like you mustn't even call the person. So all those that were clamoring to call him was like, no, man, don't waste your time. And don't call him at all. Really?
Good afternoon, Dr. Ashraf. Those skeletons that we were warned by Ume Batabile Dlamini, they are coming out everywhere. A famous DJ was mentioned yesterday. Now today, Paul O'Sullivan. We used to call him the forensic investigator. The guy doesn't have qualifications for that. He's just a phony guy, and his citizenship is under scrutiny right now. I think they are going to revoke it. Yarr! The skeletons are coming out!
How are you jumping the gun they're going to revoke it? Like you worked it all out already, okay?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Paul O'Sullivan
After having been provided with a head of state security in order to appear before the Ad-Hoc Committee today, he goes on to refuse to discuss issues before 1990, and he further dictates that the proceedings must stop by 7 p.m. Yo, what a witness. This is a disgrace to our country. Anonymous in East London.
Thank you, Anonymous. Right. Another one.
Ashraf, good evening. This is Jerry from Moirew. Mr. Paulie O'Sullivan. What all this thing now? I can't remember. He can remember 40 years later, but he can't remember something on those years again. No, man, this old man.
Okay. Sure. There's so many people who have such strong views about this. Predictably.
Good afternoon, SAFM and the fellow listeners. Paul O'Sullivan. Yeah, now he's playing the I don't remember card. What is that? Huh? He pleaded to stay in this country. You know what? When it walks like a duck, when it quacks like a duck, it is a duck, it's not a donkey. This guy, he was just an agent to infiltrate, and then now he was trained as a reservist. He became a detective. Hey, we must go back to those laws and see whether he did fit the criteria to be granted a citizenship. And we must start a petition. This guy must go. We don't want him here. I'll be the first one to sign it. He must. It's a Maya.
Goodness, you're angry. Why don't you start the petition? Yeah.
Good afternoon, SA listeners. I highly doubt that a person will just come from Ireland, UK, and quickly join to be a reservist. I doubt it. Yeah, I cannot say he was a spy, but.
Well, you're saying lots of buts, insinuations, yeah?
Hi, good afternoon, Ashraf. This chap, Paul O'Sullivan, is lying through his teeth. He already disclosed that he is a spy, or the reason why he came to this country is not necessarily a business opportunity, but to be a spy and to, I think he enjoy apartheid from distance. This thing that says he was a reservist and did that and that, reservist doesn't do that. Reservist's role is very, very limited. He might come up with a story to say that things has changed. No, he's talking nonsense. Bob, Cape Town.
Hey, people have such strong views. Nobody sits on the fence with O'Sullivan. Nobody sits on the fence.
Ashraf, O'Sullivan is lying through his teeth. He says he came to South Africa to come and improve the lives of the South Africans, particularly blacks. But when he first came here, he focused on learning Afrikaans. Why did he not start with black languages? It's a liar. Also, how can you come and improve lives of blacks whilst you hated communism, the communists? No. Thanks, Willie and Kuma.
Thanks for that, Willie. Listen, my time's up. O'Sullivan's time is not up. Here's a big question to you. Will you be listening to the National Pulse tomorrow and the other shows in the morning on SAFM to listen to the Paul O'Sullivan Show? Yes or no? Thanks for listening. You've been connected to the National Pulse. Here's the news with Greg at 6 o'clock.